Hello, gamers. You're listening to the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. This is episode number 129. And welcome back to another edition of the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. I'm Brent Felsing, and joining me tonight, Ben Boyce, Frankie Ayler, Bender Holt. Gentlemen, full squad tonight. Got a lot to talk about. How are you guys doing this week? Mr. Boyce, we did a stream the other night. You didn't sound too good. You feeling better tonight?
No, not really, but I'm gonna soldier on here. Hopefully my voice doesn't sound too terrible. I'm still under the weather, but I'll fight through it in the name of good podcasting.
Oh, I know. It's not your voice I'm worried about. I'm worried about you snorting up a bunch of snot throughout the night. So that's the one that's going to be tricky to edit out. But
I slammed some medicine before the show, so hopefully I'll be good for the next few hours.
What'd you take?
Just a Tylenol.
PM probably
severe cold or whatever. It's the non-drowsy stuff.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Stuff I usually take when I come down with something. So.
Yep. No, I feel you, man. It's that time of year. The weather's starting to change on us. In Michigan, it can get pretty brutal pretty quick. I mean, hell, the other night we had some parts of the state that were already down into the 20s. It's like, man.
Yeah, it's been chilly outside. 50s at night. So
yeah. Getting a little chilly.
Fall is coming.
It is, and it's bringing a bunch of games with it too. We are this week. I think we could say this week is the official start. Would you guys say? I mean, obviously. Next week is a big week, but we got Mario's and Rabbids. Got a bunch of games coming out this week. We'll talk about that on the new releases. But first, let's talk about what we've been playing this week. You guys ran a double header for the Tuesday Night Indie Spotlight. We're going to start with Bender because, Bender, you did a review for the game that you played, Mages of Mystralia, and you gave this game a 5 out of 5, a peerless rating, my friend. How about we talk a little bit about Mages of Mystralia?
Yeah, can finally talk about it. The game is out on PS4, so the embargo is lifted. My review's up on the site. You can go and check it out. I really, really enjoyed this game. It was a lot of fun. It was right up my alley. I mean, it's like has Legend of Zelda type gameplay with like the top-down view and everything. You're exploring, you're going into dungeons, you're fighting enemies, but the spell crafting system is what really hooked me. It is so unique. I've never played anything quite like it. I've never seen anything quite like it in a game before. But you find these runes that you attach to your spell book, and there's 4 different types of spells that are mapped to 4 different buttons on the controller. And as you attach these runes, they take on different behaviors. So like your fireball spell will you attach the move rune and it will actually move instead of just sitting in place. And then you attach the duplicate rune and it'll split into 3. And you can attach the homing rune and it'll split into 3 and it'll track enemies. So I mean, you've got these all kinds of different combinations and variations you can do to try out these different spells. So every time you find a new rune, it's you go through this period of like, oh, let me see what this does, or let me attach it here and see what this does, and just you experimenting. The runes play into like some of the puzzle solving in the world, and that's awesome. One thing I loved about the puzzles that I mentioned in my review is there's these they look like little green bird baths. These little hint terminals that you can go up to, and at first it just tells you have everything you need to complete this puzzle, or you do not have everything you need to complete this puzzle. So that way you don't have to sit there banging your head against the wall trying to solve a puzzle that's going to be impossible because you don't have all the runes you need. I really thought that was awesome. I think more games should do something like that, especially games that have a lot of puzzly things, because in some games, like for example, like in a Metroidvania game, I'll see a collectible and be like, oh, I might try for like 10 minutes to try to get it, but I might not have what I need to even collect it. So, I mean, I just thought just that aspect of the puzzle solving was awesome in this game. The story was really good. They got a professional fantasy writer named Ed Greenwood, who's famous for like a Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms, I think is what it's called. So he did all the lore and everything, and it was really cool. the art style is cool. It's very colorful. I like the character design and everything. But yeah, everything about this game was awesome. I mean, there's just a couple of little things here or there, like some frame hitching whenever if there's a lot of enemies and a lot of things going on the screen, you know there's some noticeable slowdown or frame skipping or whatever you want to call it. That was like the only thing that I was like that kind of bothered me about it. But other than that, man, this game was like, this was a Bender game through and through. So if you like Zelda games and you like games that you know, have customizable abilities that will help you explore and unlock more things and, you know, stuff like that, Mages of Mystralia is really well done. I enjoyed it very, very much, and you know, very impressive, especially since this is the first game from Borealys, the studio that made it. And I really look forward to see where they go from here, because for a first effort, I thought it was an excellent game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, you talk about the spells, and you know, I think it was the very first puzzle, because where I really got an idea of just how deep and customizable these spells are going to be. It wasn't the first puzzle, but there's a puzzle that you come up to that's in like a bunch of like ruins or tombs, like sitting around in a circle, and you unlock this perk that just says it's called right. And at first I was like, I don't know what the hell that means. What it means right? And then I read it, and it's like, you know, if you place it on a projectile, it'll go right. I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. And so I put it on there, and I was trying to figure out this puzzle, and I seen like there's little hints in the puzzle where you can kind of get an idea of what you're supposed to do. But once I tweaked the spell and added the right to the fireball, and then, you know, you throw the fireball, and then I won't say I did it, but it saw the puzzle, and I was like, wow, okay, now I can see how deep these spells are going to be. And you can have like 3 or 4, I don't even know how many more you can have, but you can have 3 or 4 different variants of each spell, correct?
Yes, and you can like name them too to keep track of them,
right?
So that you can have like there's four categories of spell, and you can create I think it's up to 6 of each.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can name them. So you can have, okay, I've got a fireball that tracks enemies. I've got a fireball that splits into 3. I've got a fireball. I've got an ice attack, because you can change the elements later on.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a fireball that you know, that will hit an enemy and then explode afterwards. I mean, there's all kinds of different things that you can do with the spells, and you can name each one to keep track of them. So yeah, it's really, really cool. There's like, I think they say that, I don't know, I've never actually tried to count, but I think they say there's like hundreds of different combinations.
I believe it.
I believe it too. Once you find all the runes, there's all kinds of different things you can do, and it's really, really cool.
And you can soup these up as powerful as you want, but you have to be careful, because the more powerful are, the more mana they take up. So you got to you know, balance that out. So like I said, the crafting system is really, really cool. It's a much deeper than I thought it was going to be. But no, I agree with you. So far, from what I played, it's a great game. It plays great. The combat's fun, and the spell crafting system is really there. Frankie, I know you've been playing some Mages of Mystralia. What's your thoughts on it so far?
I'm loving it. I'm about 5 hours in, or 37% done according to the game. But yeah, I've been having a great time just like getting in there. Like the boss fights have been really cool. A lot of the puzzles, like Bender said, are really awesome. A lot of fun. I really enjoy those. There's these doors that have like the logo of the game on them. And they're these little like light dots that they have different, you know, like directionals on them, and you have to like have them all line up so that, you know, they turn, they glow white once they're like, you know, once you can't do anything with them at that point. So like, going in there, like doing those, getting chests, and like, you know, like you guys talking about, just experimenting with the different runes and the different like effects they have on the spells. It's been really cool. I want to say the day 1 patch might have fixed a lot of the frame rate issues, because I've run into a couple of heavy enemy areas and there's not really been any slowdown. So they may have addressed that there was a pretty hefty day 1 patch, so that might have been one of the things they fixed. But yeah, I'm really loving it so far. I want to say I'm probably like looking like at the actual like things you can do in the game. Like I'm getting to a point where it's starting to open up like more side quests. Like there's you run into another character after one of the boss fights that kind of opens up like these Ghostbuster side quests. So I'm gonna start doing those, because those are really cool. The first ghost you fight in that area was really cool. So but yeah, I mean, like even just the boss fights, you know, you have to like kind of like a lot of the runes you obtain are kind of around, a boss fight. So like when you run into a boss fight, you're going to be using that rune for that fight, or just like a mechanic like you've been doing in a certain area is going to play a massive role in that boss fight itself. But I mean, I've already had to like ask Bender like things, because even like I'll ask for a hint, and the hint system just tells you the rune that you need. It doesn't tell you anything else. So like I did that, and I'm like sitting here banging my head against this one puzzle, and I sent Bender a screenshot. I'm like, help, I don't know what I'm doing. So like he mentioned, oh yeah, you can attach that to this too, and I'm just like, oh, of course you can. So yeah, but yeah, I'm loving it. I so far I totally agree with Bender's score. A lot of that stuff in that game is just it scratches an itch that I didn't even know I had right now.
Yeah, it's a great game. I really enjoyed what I played as well. And make sure you come over to the website, www.shortpause.com. Check out Bender's review. It's a great review. Awesome article, well written and everything. He talks into depth more about the game, but definitely check that out. Also, because it's Mages of Mystralia week, we were fortunate enough to get the creative director, Patric Mondou, onto this show for an interview, and that'll pop up here a little bit later on in the show. But boys, I want to come over to you. You were the second half of the Tuesday Night Indie Spotlight, and you played Bleed. And this game, I was watching you play, and I don't know if we were expecting this difficult of a game going into the Spotlight, were we?
No, not necessarily. Bleed was tough at first. Like it was really, I was really getting my ass kicked. That first helicopter gave me a run for my money there. That first helicopter mini boss. But as I got into the game and I started to understand the mechanics, I started to kind of wrap my head around the feel of the game and how I'm supposed to play it. Kind of similar to Matterfall a couple weeks ago, where you kind of get in there, spend 30, 60 minutes with the game, then you start to get a feel for how the game is supposed to be played. So with Bleed, the interesting thing about this is it's an 8-bit side-scrolling action game. It's something akin to like a Contra or Gunstar Heroes or something along those lines. It's played like a twin-stick shooter, but it has this bullet time mechanic that you use, to slow time down. We've seen this in many games before. I don't know that we've ever seen it in a 8-bit side-scrolling game, but it's here in Bleed, and you slow time and I know you picked up on this as well, but the interesting thing about the bullet time mechanic in Bleed is that you don't slow time in order to really up your damage output on an enemy. You slow time in order to navigate the environment. So once I caught on to that, and I was like, okay, I need to stop time, and I need to dodge these bullets, and I need to come around and shoot this guy, or this boss is doing this, I need to slow time at this point to avoid his missiles, then I can attack him after that. Once I started to catch on to that's how bullet time should be used in this game, I really started to kind of wrap my head around the game, and I played through it, and I actually thought it was really fun. I actually finished the game after the stream, so after I finished up the stream, I went through, beat the game. Last boss battle is pretty tough, but went through there, finished the game, and there's a bunch of different difficulties and some other variations on the game that you can do after that, so I'd like to get in there and try some other stuff out then. But it's not a long game, something you can sit down and beat in an hour. But it's fun though. It's like just pure arcade fun. And once you kind of grasp how you're supposed to play the game, you start to get that like badass feeling, and you're like diving around, and you're slowing time, and you're shooting things, and you're taking out bosses, and you just and you're getting upgrades for your guns. You're unlocking some of the different guns that are in the game. So it's a pretty cool game. I recommend it to people who enjoy side scrollers, action titles, Gunstar Heroes, that kind of stuff. Definitely pick up Bleed. I think you'll find some fun with it.
Yeah, you mentioned that about the bullet time, because in most games, when you think bullet time, you're thinking it's an offensive mechanism. You're going to use it to do a lot of damage. But with some of these bosses and some of these enemies, they bring just a barrage of projectiles at you at once, and you got to use that to avoid that. And then some of these bosses, they jump at you, and they can do heavy damage if they hit you, so you got to use the bullet time to maneuver around that. So I thought that was really cool how, bullet time, usually an offensive mechanic, is actually used more for a defensive mechanic in this game to your benefit.
Yeah, it's a really interesting game. I had a lot of fun with it though. I didn't want to stop playing it. That's why when I finished up the stream, I was like, I'm just gonna chug along here. I'm almost to the end of the game. I might as well just sit here and finish it off. So went through and chugged through the rest of it. I really had fun with it, man. I didn't, like I said, didn't want to stop playing it.
See, I like seeing games like that too, because like you're sitting there playing it and you got beat at first, and then just kind of watching you evolve through each boss battle. You're like, okay, I got to do this, and watching you figure it out. You really appreciate how deep some of these games are with their combat. It's a $9.99 game, but it's got some depth to its combat.
Yeah, it's cool. There's tons of boss battles in the game. Each stage has 2-3 bosses in them. There's some cool stages like the one on top of the train. They throw some different wrinkles and stuff at you in terms of the level design as well. So yeah, I was really impressed with it, man. I had a lot more fun than I thought it was gonna be fun, but I didn't expect to have that much fun with it when I played through it on the Spotlight. The other thing I want to mention is Sundered. So I've beaten Sundered. Finally made it to the end, just under 20 hours. It's a huge huge game. So I the last boss too was epic. So one of the interesting things about Sundered is that there's 3 different end bosses that you can encounter based on how you play the game. So I played through the game and corrupted every single one of my abilities. So I played a full corrupted playthrough, and the boss that I got at the end was man. I was sending you messages. I was like, what in the hell is going on here? This thing is crazy. But it's cool though, because over the next hour I learned how to fight this boss, what I'm supposed to do, and I started to get the mechanics down. And once I got it down and I took that thing out, it was awesome. It was an awesome feeling taking that thing down. In fact, I beat the boss, and as soon as that happened, I had to run upstairs for something. So I missed my name in the credits for the Kickstarter backers. So I was like, man. So I wanna see my name in there. So I actually went through and then immediately beat the boss again right after that, and I was able to do it right away. So I had the technique down. So after trying, I took out the boss. I was able to do it again back to back. Saw my name in the credits. Saw Frankie. Saw Brent. Saw you guys in there as well. So got your Viper Strike and your the dude handles in there as well.
Yeah.
Took some screenshots, put them in the archives. So but man, I tell you, man, if you remember back a few shows, I was like, all right, I've got Sundered. I'm gonna review it for the site. I did not know when I was picking up this game that it was gonna be a 20-hour game. I had no idea. It's very hard for me to play 20-hour games. So it took me a while to get through Sundered, but I finally made it through. And I tell you what, man, by the end, I really like that game. In fact, I'm gonna go and get the platinum now. So I've got to play through the game one more time. So I started back through on another playthrough. I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna get the platinum. But this is another game where when you first start playing this game, especially as a fan of Metroidvania games, like you're just kind of thrown for a loop. You're like, man, like these hordes are coming at me. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know where I'm supposed to go or what I'm supposed to do. But once you grasp how this game works and you understand how to fight the hordes, you understand how the combat works, you understand how to utilize the skill tree and your abilities for traversal and for combat, once you grasp that, man, it's a good feeling. And there's not a better looking game, I feel like, that I'm gonna play this year probably than Sundered. And that's not to say something like Horizon, which is obviously on a whole nother level. But just in terms of like this hand-drawn look and the quality of the animation, the character design in that game, it's really unmatched. It's just so beautiful to watch in motion, and some of these just extravagant creature designs, like the final boss is just like, what in the hell is this thing? Like, who came up with this? So they've got some crazy stuff in there. But yeah, by the end, I really like this game now. All the technical issues have not been ironed out, so that's the game's main issue right now. But it's an epic Metroidvania game, probably the most epic one I've ever played. Like I said, coming in at just under 20 hours is just a massive title. And now I can sit down. Now I can write my review for the game. Hopefully tomorrow, get it up on the site, and then that'll give me a week before Destiny 2 comes out. But yeah, shouts out to Sundered, man. I want to see what these other end bosses look like now, because that one I was fighting yesterday was crazy.
Can you imagine if like Thunder Lotus went with like a AAA game, like something like Horizon Zero Dawn or something of that scale, and still managed to keep that art style? Oh man,
yeah, I don't even know what that would look like. Yeah,
imagine a Witcher 3, Frankie, but with Thunder Lotus's hand-drawn art style, like an epic sprawling game like that. That would just be, I'd love to see that for sure.
Yeah,
Frankie, what else have you played this week, man, other than Mages?
I finished up Severed after the podcast last week. So that took about a little over 4 hours to beat. That game's really cool. Like Bender said, it gets really dark. But yeah, I did. I enjoyed it. As you're playing through it, it kind of takes like the base enemies you have. They as you're playing, there's kind of different variants on them. They have different buffs. Some of them block magic because as you're playing the game, you get these different masks and like abilities that can like take away like an ability from an enemy or blind them so that you can slash away and pretty much kill them. But yeah, it's really cool getting in there, like upgrading all those different abilities so that you can like. When you're, like I mentioned, his abilities is like a flash attack, so they're just stunned and can't do anything, and like you can upgrade that and like increase the duration. So, but yeah, I really liked it a lot. Like especially like all the boss fights in that game are really cool. The drink box art style, that you're familiar with from Guacamelee is in this one, and it's just man. So that was really great. I was really happy to finally play through that game. It does have in-game achievements. I know that's not quite the same, but there's still some kind of system in there, so that was nice to see. And then the other thing that we did was Bender and I gathered Darkhound and our buddy Madzu, and we beat Battleborn.
Oh!
Bender finally saw the end of the game.
Wow!
Yeah.
So yeah, that was exciting. That's the third time that we finished the Helio. Well, I finished the Heliophage, so I didn't think that was going to happen, but yeah, that was really cool, really fun. So yeah, that's been about it though. I've just been playing Mages. I picked up Uncharted because I'm a fraud. So.
Aren't we all? I think we all are.
They had their GameStop was running a trade-in promotion, so I traded in Zelda. And basically paid $2 for Uncharted.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
That's a fair trade-off. Like I'm probably not going to play the Zelda DLC just because I don't really have a lot of time to play a lot of DLCs. Even the ones I buy that I intend to play, like I want to play The Witcher, so I haven't done that. I have the Mafia 3 stuff I'm never going to play. So if I do, I'll just go and pick up another copy of Zelda later on. It's not a big deal. But
right.
Yeah, just trying to wrap up Mages and have a clean slate for Yakuza this week.
Yes, we'll talk about Yakuza Kiwami here in just a moment. Trying to think. Only really thing I played this week was the Call of Duty World War II beta. Played some of that last night. Played some of that this morning, and I'm just honestly, I'm just really glad that the series has gone back to boots on the ground. I mean, it feels good just to go in there and not have to worry about people wall running, double jumping, and all that stuff. It's just World War II. It's your skills. You don't have to worry about all that other stuff. And the mode I played, I don't remember this mode. I don't think this has been in Call of Duty before, but it's called War Mode, and that's easily my favorite mode out of the bunch that they had on there. Basically, War Mode is a 4-phase like attack defend mode where if you're on the attack side, you have to go in and capture point A, which is like this base and this like communications base or whatever inside of a house. And you go in there and you try to take it like a control point. You have X amount of time to capture the point. If you don't capture a point, the round ends and you switch sides. So you take the first point, and then the next spot is you have to build a bridge. Because your tanks, you're trying to progress across the map, your tank can't get across the bridge. So what you have to do is it's a funnel too. I mean, you get to this bridge, you got snipers on the other side. You got to have snipers on your side, taking them out. You got to get right down, like lay on the ground and start building this bridge. And again, it's timed. And all your progress, say if you're hammering, you're building the bridge and you get killed, the progress is saved, but then somebody else has to get it. So you see a lot of smoke grenades. You got guys sniping everywhere. It's pretty intense. Once you're done with the bridge, the next spot you have to do is the tank will make its way through, and then you have to take out their ammo depot. And so it's another heated fight in a certain amount of time. And then after that, you have to escort your tank to the extraction or whatever. I don't think it's an extraction, but to the final point, and that's how you win. Now, say if you only build the bridge and then your team is wiped out before the ammo depot, I believe what that counts as is you got 2 out of the 4. And so the next time when you're on defense, if you only keep them at the first point, if they can't get past that, then your team wins. So it's a pretty cool mode. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, like I said, it was easily the most fun I've had on a Call of Duty mode in a long time in terms of multiplayer. It's fun, it's intense, it's fast paced, and there's not a whole lot of focus on kills in that game. I mean, it's important, but you're trying to stick to the objective, and that's always a mode I can get behind. So I really enjoyed the war mode.
At first, when I had watched some of the gameplay, it looked like Battlefield 1, which I think is saying a lot. But yeah, actually, that was a fun stream to watch. I don't know if you streamed. I just saw the video afterwards. If I don't know what you did, but I'm terrible. I know, but no, I'm actually kind of interested in it. I'm not going to play in the beta. But when I watched of it, it actually looks like a fun time. So I might end up jumping into Call of Duty because I'm a fraud. So
you mentioned how it reminded you of Battlefield 1. Like, no joke. The melee charge is like a direct ripoff of Battlefield 1. First, you sprint, and then you hold down the right stick, and your guy brings up his, what's that called? Bayonet. And like he'll start yelling. He'll start going, ah, like in Battlefield 1. It's like a direct carbon copy of Battlefield 1. It's hilarious. But no, I love the setting. I just like it's boots on the ground. It's none of that futuristic stuff. If I want to play a futuristic wall running, I'll go play Titanfall 2. It does it a lot better. So I'm glad they're back to boots on the ground. This is it just feels more like Call of Duty. It feels like a better iteration of Call of Duty. Probably in terms of feel, I think it's the best one we've had in a long time.
Even just like the aesthetic of it. And I mean, I haven't played Call of Duty in a long time, but like the weapon sway and just the way that the game it doesn't have that typical. How do I describe it? Like Call of Duty games kind of have like this weird muddy look to them usually, but this one just was like a clean. It was a beautiful looking map. Like I said at first, like I thought you were playing Battlefield just looking at it, just because like it's such a sharper looking picture than what I'm used to from a Call of Duty game. So that was really cool to see. It looks like they've overhauled some stuff, like with the engine at least. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it certainly looks like it. Yeah, I mean it's still the Call of Duty engine, so obviously it's not the biggest step, but no, it looks good. It's a beautiful looking game. It's gritty. It's what I would expect from a World War II game. I remember World at War. When that came out and we played that, I was just like, man, this game is violent. I mean, you got people getting dismembered. It was wholly violent. And, people were breaking out the flamethrowers in this game. And as they're torching this area, you're running through and you just hear guys, you look down the left, there's guys burning alive and they're screaming. You're like, wow, this is gritty. So really enjoyed what I played with World War II beta. I'm going to jump in there again. And I think it's out next weekend too. So I'm just really happy that they've gone back to boots on the ground. This feels like a Call of Duty game again. Well, hey, let's jump into these new releases. We got a lot of games coming out this week, boys. What can we look forward to?
So we are going to start with the PlayStation releases this week, and at the top of this list we have Yakuza Kiwami. So this is, I guess you call it budget priced release of the first game in the Yakuza series, the remake for the PS4. It's only $29.99. It's available both digitally and at retail. And Frankie, I'm just gonna let you hop in here and take it from here. Tell us about Yakuza, bud.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. After I finished Yakuza 0 back in January, I was just excited to get to the next game in the series. So this one, complete from scratch remake of the first game. I think they've added some confrontations with the Majima throughout the game now. I think it's called the Majima Anywhere mode or something, so you can just kind of randomly pop up in places and fight you, because that's what he likes to do. But yeah, so this is if you've never played any of the Yakuza games, Yakuza 0 obviously would be where I'd recommend to start. But if you don't, Yakuza Kiwami is going to kind of basically be again, the first game in the series, which I can't wait. I once I finished Yakuza 0, like that has by far been the best story I've experienced this year. It's a very deep narrative. I've never played the first Yakuza game, so I'm expecting more of the same. But the weird, old school, brawling style combat system in the game, just there's so much weird Japanesey stuff about the game to love. I've been talking to JD about, he's actually gonna, I'm gonna stream the game Monday night when I get home from work. So probably around 12:15 in the morning, we'll be going live with that. But we're probably going to break down, some stuff that happens in Yakuza 0, because obviously the events from 0 lead into the beginning of Kiwami. So you can look forward to that and checking out probably the first hour. I'm probably going to cut the stream after an hour, but I'm just going to play a ton of Yakuza Kiwami this week. I can't wait.
Something I'm curious about with this game, Frankie, and I want to get your thoughts on this now. Yakuza, the first Yakuza, was obviously originally a PlayStation 2 game. So they've remade it. They've added some stuff to it with the Kiwami version here. Now, Yakuza 0 was basically a game made from the ground up for next-gen systems, right? So, with Yakuza 0, any trepidation or any worry on your part that when you get into Kiwami, it's gonna kind of feel like an older game. It's not gonna be up to the standards that Yakuza 0 set for you. Like the bar has been set high, and now we're going into Kiwami, which is probably gonna have a little bit of a different feel to it.
I'm not really worried about it, only because I've also dabbled with Yakuza 5 at one point, which is another older, but like the combat system felt the same. It's just because like the combat system itself in the game doesn't really feel like a modern combat system. It's for what I had experienced with it anyways, it was more like, kind of a button mashy, just grab stuff and beat the crap out of people thing. Like it's not, I don't think it's anything that's going to suffer from being like an older iteration of the system.
Mm-hmm. Not even in the combat necessarily, but what about like the scope of the game? Like I know you spent a lot of hours with Yakuza 0, 40, 50 hours, however long it took you to get through that game. Going back to the PlayStation 2, I don't know that the scope of this game is going to be maybe what you experienced with 0.
I mean, part of me is okay with that just because there's other games I want to play. But from what I understand, there's still a pretty hefty amount of side content in the game. I do know that, like, in terms of like the actual scope of the game, it takes about 20 hours to play through the main story. About 30, 35 if you're doing all of the side stuff, which is, I think, around what I had spent with my time with Yakuza 0 during my first playthrough was just pretty much story, and some of the side stuff was about 35, 40 hours. But I mean, I'm okay with that though. I think it's still like, even if the main focus of that game is strictly on the story with less of the goofy fun side stuff, that's fine too. I'm just expecting the narrative to be like the shining thing, which I don't think I'm gonna be disappointed.
Awesome. Yeah, we look forward to hearing your thoughts on it. I know I ordered it because why the hell not? So
it's Yakuza. It's like $25. You get a steelbook.
Yeah, there you go. So Yakuza Kiwami will be out this Tuesday, and if you haven't pre-ordered yet, get in there, pre-order, get the steelbook, get the 20% discount, all the stuff that entails. So seems to be a solid deal for that game. Moving on now, second on this list, we have Everybody's Golf. It's coming both digital and retail, and tell you what, Brent, I'm really interested in this game. I would actually love to get this game. I think it would be cool if we had like a tea time every morning where we got in here and just played this game. Now that's a tall task, but the Hot Shots Golf Series been around for a really long time. This looks like a fun iteration of it. I didn't get a chance to hop into the beta for the game like you did. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with it and what you think now that the game's about to come out?
When I played in the beta, it was actually pretty good. I mean, it felt like a Hot Shots Golf.
It looked good from watching the video. It looked like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it basically was everything that I expected from it. I mean, it was fun. It was golf. It's got that quirky animation. It's got that quirky humor to it. It sounds like there's quite a few non-golf things you can do in this game. Yeah. I think I remember reading something about fishing and golf cart races. So that's interesting. You're gonna be able to do all these kind of like quirky different things involving golf stuff, but not actually playing golf. But no, I mean, from when I played the video, it was good. It felt good. It was a 3-click system. Not terribly difficult in terms of like, hitting the ball and stuff, but it's just the way the game plays, the different stuff you can do with the ball after the fact. The courses are pretty cool. Or the course that I played was actually really nice, but I was actually kind of like admiring this from afar. I wouldn't mind picking it up. It's I want to know more about what there is. I hope there's like some kind of like a clubhouse or something you can build for friends that, for everyone to join and play and stuff. But no, I mean it's Hot Shots Golf, and I've always liked that series. I played the hell out of the one that came out on the Vita at launch. I think it was a World Tour. Yeah, World Tour or Invitational, one of those two. Yeah. But played the hell out of that on the Vita. I thought that was really good.
So, well, I know you've like dabbled with Golf Club 2 and like Infinite Mini Golf. Is this one that's going to be just as like good as those? Are you?
The Golf Club 2 is I don't know if you can like compare them, because Golf Club 2 is like a golf simulator. I mean, that thing is more sim than any other golf game I've ever played. So I would lean more towards the Mario Golfs and the Everybody's Golf in terms of like more playtime, because it's a little more fun, it's a little more quirky. But I would say compared to Infinite Mini Golf, I would say Everybody's Golf is a little bit more appealing.
Okay.
Let me ask you this, Brent. If
Mhm.
we picked up everybody's golf and we were like, hey, at 7:30 every morning before I go to work, we're gonna hop on here. We're gonna play a round of golf. What would you say to that?
You know what? That's not a terrible idea. It's not a terrible idea. It's actually kind of interesting. I think it'd be kind of cool to wake up, get a cup of coffee, come down here, talk about how pissed we are. We got to go to work in a half hour, but get a quick round of golf in.
Mhm.
You know what? I like where your head's at. Let me stew on that one a little bit.
What do you think about that? I wouldn't mind waking up early, getting in a round of golf, and then going about my day. And I know you got stuff going on in the morning. I know you going to work a little bit later in the afternoon, but hey, if you're interested, let me know.
I will. I'm thinking about it.
All right, we'll have the short pause tea time. Yes, that's everybody's golf coming out this Tuesday. I think it's only $39.99, so this seems like that's gonna be a good value at that price. But a lot of people looking forward to Hot Shots Golf returning. I like you said, I think admiring from afar is a good term for this. I've been looking at this one in the same exact way. Moving on with this list now. The hits keep on coming here. Life is Strange returns this week with Before the Storm, Episode 1. It's coming out this Thursday, August 31st. This is the first of a 3-episode series, and this is the strange thing about this. It's 3 episodes, but if you buy, I think it's the deluxe version of the game, you get a bonus episode. So is it 3 episodes or is it 4 episodes? Like what are we getting at here?
The 3-episode arc that you're mentioning is all going to be focused around Chloe.
Mhm.
The bonus episode, you actually play as a young Max Caulfield. She's the protagonist from the first game. So I don't think the bonus episode is really tied to the events of the first one. Or not the first one, but the Before the Storm.
Cool. So keep that in mind. If you're looking to get the bonus Max episode, make sure you pick up the deluxe edition. I don't know how that's going to play out in terms of how they're going to sell it separately or whatever. But Bender, you're a big Life is Strange fan. What are you thinking now that Before the Storm's coming out, man? You ready to hop into this?
I'm excited to play it, but I probably will wait till all 3 episodes are out so I can just play them one after the other. That's the best way to do these episodic games. I don't like playing an episode, then it ends in a cliffhanger, then you have to wait a month or 2 months or 3 months or who knows how long to play the next one. Then you're like, you jump back into the next one, you're like, what was I doing last time? I don't even remember now. So yeah, I think I might just wait, because I played Life is Strange long after it had come out, and I was able to play through all 5 episodes, and I loved doing that. So I think I'm going to just hold back a little bit. Same thing I'm doing with Telltale's Guardians of the Galaxy and Telltale's Batman episode, season 2. All of those, I just want to wait till all the episodes are out, then jump in and get to just blast through them. I think that's the best way to do it.
We're gonna get to the point, Bender, where you've waited for all these episodic games, and by the time all is said and done, you're gonna have like 10 of them just sitting there waiting for you, and you're never gonna play any of them. I'm just playing.
No, I'll make time for Life is Strange and Batman at the very least.
Gotcha. Franklin, refresh my memory here. How was the release schedule with the first Life is Strange? I feel like they had some issues with that one.
Yeah, I think it was midway through they had some issues like coming from episode 2 to 3, but they were typically about a month or 2 apart. So the first time around, they seemed like they stuck to it for the most part, except for an episode or 2.
So I think Bender's got the right idea then. Wait this one out. Wait till all 3 episodes are here.
Absolutely. That's the mindset that I have too. Even if they have them ready to go and they're like going to stick to a game, an episode a month, I don't want to wait a month. Especially with like Destiny 2, Yakuza, and all these other story-heavy games I want to play in between. I'd rather sit down and play it and not have to like divert my focus to something else.
So let me ask you this: Is the viewpoint that Bender and you just espoused here is this? Do you think is this the prevailing viewpoint of the majority of gamers, or do you think you guys are in the minority?
I think we're right now in the minority, but I also think people are kind of also coming around on that idea as well. Because I know a lot of people that worry that they're going to run into spoilers, the longer you wait between episodes, which is a fair thing to worry about. But I still think I'm pretty vigilant about, avoiding spoilers for any of the stuff. But it is like, I can't see how anybody enjoys playing a game, setting it down for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then getting to resume it. I come back to like Blues and Bullets. So as far as I know, that studio is no more. So we're never going to get, episodes 3 through 5 of Blues and Bullets. But even at that, the first 2 episodes were a year apart.
Mm-hmm.
And King's Quest, that's another one that there was like 8 months between episodes or something. So it's just, I understand wanting to, kind of play them as they're coming out so that you're caught up on the story. But I think you're crazy if you don't want to sit down and just play them all at once and not have to worry about waiting forever or, getting hooked on a series that you're never going to play the end of.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm getting at here is episodic gaming, is this something that's going to be around for the long haul, or do you think we could see this kind of starting to phase itself out as people start to realize, like, look, these episodes aren't coming out with any kind of regularity. It's better to just sit down and play the whole thing. So is this, do you think, a model that's going to phase itself out, or do you think this thing's here to stay?
I could see him kind of doing stuff similar to how they handled like season 3 of The Walking Dead at first. When the season came out, they put out 2 episodes. I could see him kind of starting to have maybe more episodes ready when the pass comes out, but ultimately still kind of see it as a thing. That's honestly, I'd prefer that. If I'm being totally honest, like tell me I buy a season pass today and like, oh, the three episodes will be available this month and the last 2 will be out next month. I'd be totally fine with that too. Like I'd actually probably, because I could kind of pace myself playing the episodes so that I'm not like, wearing myself too thin on them.
Yeah, I'm gonna be curious to watch this over the next few years to see how these episodic games kind of gonna do their thing. If they just gonna keep chugging along, Telltale keeps doing it, so I'm sure they're making money hand over fist, so they don't seem to have a problem with it. But I wonder if at some point, like, people are gonna become jaded and they're just gonna be like, look, you guys are just not hitting these deadlines. I don't remember what happened from episode to episode because you guys are taking so long. Like, I wonder if this mindset is gonna start to set in.
It's funny you mention that because I feel like watching, for example, anything on Netflix, Stranger Things, when a new season comes out, boom, here's all the episodes. And then you go over to like video games, you're like, man, I gotta wait how many months to play the next one? So you're like, man, Netflix has the right idea, and that's what some of these developers need to do. But at the same time, you can't really call it episodic if you just release the whole game at once. It's just, here's the game with a bunch of episodes in it. But
sure you can.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's just like every other video game. It's just like, here, there's different chapters. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. It's the same thing. It's just a full-on video game, so you can't really do episodic. But I think with like Netflix, it's just like, man, now it just makes games from Telltales and these other developers, it makes it seem even worse because, man, I just go to Netflix, I can watch the whole season on day one. Here, I got to wait a year to get 5 episodes. Like, what the hell is that? So that just that kind of makes me think about it a little bit more with Netflix doing things the way they do.
The other thing that irritates me, especially with Telltale, is they're just so inconsistent.
Yes.
Like, one series, they'll be consistent. Like, every month, the second Tuesday of the month, you're going to get an episode. Other ones, like Guardians, that started releasing in April. We're at the end of August now, and we're only 3 episodes in. So I worry too much about, the fact that not only that, but like these season passes keep going on sale well before the season's even over, which again is a really bad look for these things. So, and to Bender's point too, that kind of plays into the whole waiting game, because by the time you're nearing the end of the season and it's going to go on sale for, $8 by, before the end of the season, and I would have already spent $25 for episode 1 and waiting. It makes it a hard case to like buy a season pass on day 1. Or a season pass disc even.
Yeah, I just know for myself personally, like if I were to spend even a week away from a game and I go back to it, I'm just like, how do I play this game again? Like, what am I doing?
Yep.
Like, what was happening? So when you take these episodic games, these games that are typically narrative story driven, and you're waiting 1-2 months in between releases, if you're a gamer and you're like playing other games, like, I don't know how you keep heads or tails of anything that's going on in the series between releases. Because the minute I get like a week beyond what I'm playing, like, I'm going to forget what's going on. Or I'm going to forget like what exactly is happening or how to play the game. And then I've got to try to get back into the game all over again. That's just, it's kind of a strange feeling. So
yeah. One of the worst ones for me was in episode 2 of Blues and Bullets. There's this big moment that happens with one of these side characters, and like your last conversation with them, it gives you this dialogue choice and I didn't know what any of the stuff in the dialogue thing was, because it was referencing stuff from the last episode, which was a year ago at that point. So like stuff like that, that if you're giving yourself too much time between, just kind of forgetting like literally a minor detail that if you had played the game 3 hours ago, you probably would remember versus a month ago. So
Yeah,
that stuff drives me crazy.
Yeah, I think potentially we could see something like the Netflix style in the future, where hey, here's a series, here's all 5 episodes, maybe you play one every night, throughout the course of a week, leading up to the end of the week. Like I think that could be a good way to do it, but we'll see how it goes from here. All right, so let's move on with these new releases. We've got a lot on this list here, so I'm gonna breeze through these now because we've got a lot to talk about in the show here. Next up on this list, Absolver, a very, very cool looking. I guess how would you even describe this? Is this an online fighting game, Frankie?
Yeah, it's basically like an online brawler.
It sounds like, was it like a For Honor? Is this what this is? Like a melee combat game?
Kind of, but I don't think you have different classes. It's just either sword or hand to hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very, very in-depth fighting system. A very promising title. I really want to play this one at some point. It looks like it could be really fun. Windjammers is coming out this week. Another game that just looks like good, pure, old school fun. Looks kind of like if Disc Jam were a 2D game, it would be Windjammers. Just kind of throwing a disc back and forth, trying to score.
This is actually an old Neo Geo game.
Yep.
I believe.
You are correct. It is an old Neo Geo title, I think, from the 90s. So if you're into that stuff, check that out. Red Out, very cool looking futuristic racing game, will be out this week. Yes. That one looks pretty snazzy.
It does.
Another very good looking title, The Last Day of June. This is a Thursday release this week, August 31st. Heard a lot of buzz about this game. Narrative focused game. It deals with some heady themes. There's some time travel, I believe, involved in this as well. So this really looks interesting. It's made by the guy who did Murasaki Baby. Yeah, Murasaki Baby. So very creative dude. So this one's definitely on my radar. Grab this before Thursday to get your 20% off for your PlayStation Plus member. So just keep that in mind. Resident Evil Revelations makes its way over to the PS4 now. This game's literally been on every platform under the sun. So it's coming over to PS4 this week, digital and retail. Crazy to think that this game started as a 3DS game. It's gone to PS3 to 360. Now it's on PS4 and Xbox One. I mean, it's all over the place. Ark Survival Evolved, a Brent Felsing favorite, finally hits its 1.0 release. This is some 2 years after early access, and this is exactly what I'm talking about with these early access games. This game has been out for basically 2 years, and I didn't even know it was coming out of early access this week. No idea. There's no buzz about this game. Just people have been playing this for 2 years. Nobody gives a shit it's coming out of early access. Like I've been playing this game for 2 years. What do I care if it's releasing right now? So Ark is coming out with a whimper and not a bang.
Pretty sweet looking collector's edition.
Does have sweet looking collector's edition.
Dude, that steelbook is awesome.
Yeah,
that steelbook is awesome.
Yeah, but for $160,
nope.
Good luck. So yeah, if anybody picks up Ark, let us know how their experience is. But Brent, I know you haven't had a good time with it. I know the game's changed over the years or so. It's a significantly different game than when you originally jumped into it. But yeah, it's just one of these things where it's like, man, it's just like all the life has just been sucked out of this thing. This is just in our circle here. There are many people who love this game and play this game religiously, and they play it every day and they're hooked on it. But for the rest of us, especially for like the console gamers who haven't had access to the early access portion of it, it's just like this game just kind of coming up out of nowhere. We're like, what is this?
It's so strange too, because it's I jumped into it with expectations, tempered, but I had some decent expectations for it. Yeah. And I really just couldn't get into the game at all. And I got a couple of buddies who play this thing, and they love it. I mean, they swear by this game. Mm-hmm. They swear by it. But, I mean, that's because they love the management portion of it. They love the control that they have. It's a survival sim, I mean, through and through. And they just love that stuff. There's people that just absolutely love that stuff, and God bless them. I just can't get into it. I don't have the time for it, because I know those are the games where you only get so much about you only get so much out of it of the time that you put into it. Mm-hmm. And I just don't have that kind of time. But man, there are people that swear by this game.
Yeah, there's a large group of people that love Ark Survival Evolved. So I'm sure they're happy that the game's hitting 1.0, but once again, they've been playing the game for 2 years. So
Right.
they're just like, all right, 1.0, cool, woo. Let's
Right.
play more. Let's play more.
I'm just
Arc.
gonna keep playing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Arc hitting its big 1.0 release, retail release, multiple editions, collector's edition. So they're doing it big for the release here. Strange time of the year for this game to come out though. I just don't know. Just don't know that this is gonna make a splash. At least on the retail side of things, we'll see. Rock of Ages 2, Bigger and Bolder. That's BOULDER. Those clever bastards over there at Atlas. So this is a Monday release, actually. This is the I never played the first Rock of Ages. A strange mix of like man, I don't even know how you describe it. It's like tower defense and boulder destruction game. It's a weird looking title. The trailer is just off the wall, just pretty crazy. So check that out. We got a couple of games here. I'm mulling over possibly for the Tuesday night indie spotlight this week. We've got Still Time, which is a time based physics based puzzle 2D puzzle game. Looks really interesting. And the Metronomicon, which is a mixture of RPG, like side scrolling RPG and rhythm game. So also a cool looking title. X-Morph Defense is a Wednesday release. This is the one where you play as the bad guys. So it's kind of a reverse tower defense game. Abduction is that's OBDUCTION. Is a game that's created by the creators of Myst and Riven. So it's that kind of like narrative adventure game coming back into the fold now. So a lot of buzz about this one. Interested in that one too. Pillars of Eternity Complete Edition, a game that's just going to get completely buried here. Just a terrible release date for this game, for a game that was a big time hit on the PC. There should be a lot of hoopla about this coming over to consoles, but once again, I haven't heard anything about this game. It's just kind of coming out, and I imagine many other people don't even know this is coming out this week.
I read a review from a smaller site that actually got their hands on the PS4 version, and they highlight a lot of the things that everyone knows about this game. The story is there and all that stuff, but the transition to console in terms of its controls, little shaky.
Really?
Yep.
Surprising. I would have thought a game like this, which is more of that like kind of action RPG. I thought this would have translated over well to the controller, but
that was just one review.
That
could change.
Yeah. I imagine it's different too if you've played this game a lot on the PC. So I don't know the reviewer's prior experience, but if you've played a lot of these kind of games prior on a PC, I imagine the transition to console is rather difficult.
Yeah, he scored it. He scored it. Yeah, he scored it well. I mean, he gave it a decent score, but he just said the controls were a little bit, difficult to wrap their head around. And if I do remember correctly, playing what little I played on the PC, there is an inventory system that you have to kind of deal with, and with only so many buttons on a controller, I can see that can be a little confusing, or the deeper it gets.
Yeah. Something I've always been interested in is a game like this, a single player game. We know the PS4 has mouse and keyboard support, so why not put that in the console version of the game?
Yeah.
I understand why they don't do it in multiplayer games. That's a whole different ball of wax. But for a game like this, for a single player role playing game, why not throw in the mouse and keyboard support?
Right.
I don't know.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but Pillars of Eternity, I've been really interested in this game. I always heard really, really good things about it. It's people love this game.
There is a lot of reading, lot of reading in this game.
Yeah. So at some point, I would like to check this out. No idea when that could possibly happen, or if it could ever happen. But I've always heard great things about that one.
Here's a hint: it's never going to happen. So don't bother.
All right, well, you go to hell. Warriors All Stars is coming to both digital and retail. This is a Dynasty Warriors type of game with a cast of characters from a bunch of different series. Dead Alliance. This is the one we've talked about from Ilphonic, the Friday the 13th theme. This game just looks generic as all hell. This game's gonna come out. It's gonna die quickly, and hopefully they'll just focus on Friday the 13th after that.
Maximum Games.
Yeah, Maximum Games as well. White Day, a labyrinth-themed school. Very interesting looking Korean horror title. Another horror title, Detention, is actually set in 1960s Taiwan. This is a side-scrolling like adventure horror game. Couple of interesting looking titles there. Surf World Series is a surfing title. Fishing Planet is I think it's a free-to-play fishing game coming to PS4 this week. Grim Legends 2, Song of the Dark Swan, Artifacts Mundi's latest hidden object game. Art of Fighting Anthology is the latest PS2 on PS4 title. So if you're an Art of Fighting fan, check that out this Wednesday. And the Sexy Brutale, the Full House edition. We mentioned this before, but I guess
we'll see.
Like the release got moved to this week. This is the only at
Maybe.
GameStop game, so we'll see if that comes out Tuesday. We're getting a demo for Pro Evolution Soccer 2018 on Wednesday. A couple other things I want to note here as well. Frankie, you're dancing.
Sure am really excited about that Pez.
Battlefield 1 Revolution is available now. Came out this past week. This is Battlefield 1 plus its premium pass, all for the regular price of the game. So that's a really good deal there with Revolution. Darkest Dungeon got its Crimson Court DLC this past week. It's $10, or you can buy the whole entire package for $29.99 now on the PS4 and the Vita.
It's also cross-buy.
It is cross-buy.
So the DLC is cross-buy, which I thought was crazy.
There you go. I think they usually do that. If the title itself is cross-buy, usually the DLC is cross-buy. Could be mistaken on that, but I think that's how they usually run things. We've got the Trove Eclipse Pack DLC is available now. Marvel Heroes Omega, the Electra Pack, is up for purchase now. Then there's this Defenders event participation ticket, which you can go on there, and I guess there's some kind of Defenders event going on right now.
Is there a vendor?
Have to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get in?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the funny thing about that, for those who are playing the game, if you're wanting to get that Defenders event ticket, you go up to this NPC in Avengers Tower, and you have to go into the PlayStation Store and download the Defenders event ticket. So you click download, and it's like does the little loading thing like it's going to download something, but then like nothing happens. No notification pops up saying this has been downloaded, nothing. So I'm like clicking the button over and over again. I'm like, why isn't it downloading this thing? And then I figure out that it's actually was downloading each time. So in my inventory, I've got like 6 or 7 of them in my like delivery list in my character. I'm like, oh great, okay. So yeah, it is downloading. It's just it just takes like less than a second. So yeah.
Is it one of those things that just does it actually download anything, or is it just one of those things that it just gives you in the game or whatever?
I think it just drops something in your inventory. I don't think it has to actually download anything. It's just a little digital item that you have to to walk up and talk to the character, and she starts gives you the first mission for it. So
yeah,
I mean it's nothing really special.
Because you know that stuff on there's some items on the PlayStation Store. Usually it's something like that. It's like a skin or a gun or something like that, and you click on it and it'll just say installed or whatever, and it doesn't actually install anything, but it's just in the game waiting for you. Yeah. So that's a good tip for those of you that have yet to download your Defenders participation ticket. Hit the button once; it will be there. Dead by Daylight has some new chapters available now. So this is the other game that's like Friday the 13th. A Lullaby for the Dark, and the Halloween chapter starring Michael Myers himself. Those are both available now in Dead by Daylight. The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing 2, its Ink Hunt DLC is available now. The Escapist 2 has the Glorious Regime DLC. That's up for purchase. And Danganronpa V3, the demo snuck out. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Day before?
Yep.
Available now on both the PS4 and the Vita. Check it out. You can also pre-order the game now on the PlayStation Store. It'll net yourself a free theme. So if you're interested in that.
What you play in that demo, not in the game.
Really?
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I assume it's because it's such a story-driven game, they don't want to put any actual story plot in there, but that court case that you play in the demo is not actually in the game.
Interesting. Is it a prelude to the game, or does it tie into it at all? I'm
not sure. I don't want to download it if it's not tied to anything, so I didn't mess with it. I just assumed that it's because they don't want to give away any story stuff. Maybe they just want to show off the new mechanics and how they work in the new game.
Interesting. Well, I need to get in there and download that then. I want to have it on there if it's different. Cool. So, Brent, you mentioned the Call of Duty World War II private multiplayer beta happening right now this weekend for PlayStation 4 members. I believe next week everybody's going to be able to get into it, but there's another version of the beta running on PS4 as well. So that'll start on Friday, September 1st, and that'll go through Labor Day on Monday, September 4th. So if you missed out this weekend, hop back in there next weekend. And Horizon Zero Dawn got its latest patch this week, and it added story mode difficulty, which I thought was interesting. It's a difficulty for people that are just interested in playing through the game and experiencing the story. So the combat encounters are less intense; they're not as difficult. So very very interesting addition there. All right, let's move into the PlayStation VR stuff. Got 3 pretty cool looking titles this week. Spark, which is a kind of Tron disc throwing type of sports game from the Eve Valkyrie studio of all things. So that looks like a really interesting title that's coming out Tuesday. Oh, the Lost Bears, that 2D like puppet studio or puppet theater game.
Theater, yeah.
Puppet theater game that's coming out Thursday. And Sneaky Bears, which basically is a one of those kind of light gun-esque kind of games where you're shooting teddy bears, homicidal teddy bears as they come at you.
Poor Frank.
Yeah. Now, moving on to Vita. Still Time is coming to the Vita this week as well. It's a game we mentioned on the PS4. Windjammers will be on here as well. And once again, the Danganronpa demo and the Darkest Dungeon DLC both available on the Vita. Now, all right, let's get into the Xbox One now. September's games with gold have been revealed. Starting off at the top here, Forza Motorsport 5. It's coming to the Xbox One on September 1st, and it'll be available the entire month until the 30th. Also on the Xbox One, Oxenfree. Very cool game. September 16th through October 15th, you'll have access to that. On the 360 side of things, Hydro Thunder Hurricane, September 1st to the 15th, and Battlefield 3 on the Xbox 360, the everybody's favorite Battlefield, right? That's available September 16th to the 30th. So let's run around the horn here real quick. Frankie, your thoughts on this Games with Gold lineup?
I like it. I've never played any of the actual Forza games, so I'll probably mess around with Forza 5. Actually, I probably won't, but I might. It's a good chance now, especially if it's free. But I love Oxenfree. That's a game that that was the first game that I played through this year, first platinum of the year. Wonderful game. It's a heavily story-driven, supernatural adventure game by some of the ex-Telltale guys. So a lot of really cool decision stuff you can make in there. And just like actually it's cool. The things that it does is you do multiple playthroughs. There's kind of different touches throughout the game. So it's awesome. Highly recommend playing that one. Don't sleep on it.
I loved my time with it on the Indie Spotlight. It's one I definitely need to go back to at some point, but I thought it was a really unique, really fun game when I played it. Brent, your thoughts on this list?
No interest in Forza Motorsport 5. I think I'm just more of a Horizon guy than I am a Motorsport guy. So, Oxenfree, I've never played it, but I did watch you play, and the soundtrack is awesome. I do have the soundtrack. I've listened to it multiple times, but I am interested in playing that game. But I already own that. Don't know what Hydro Thunder Hurricane is, and Battlefield 3 is actually pretty good.
Cool. Bender, your thoughts?
Looks like a good list. I can't wait to play Oxenfree. That's one that I've heard a lot of good things about. So it sounds like a game I might enjoy. So, then I'll check out the other games too. But that's the one I'm really excited about.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I really thought Forza that was going to be the one that you championed. No, getting out there, rocking your suspensions on the Dodge Vipers and stuff. No, not your thing.
What? That Viper?
I'm confused.
So that's September's Games with Gold. Pretty strong lineup overall. Let's move on from here. How about this, guys? So ReCore, the Definitive Edition, was officially confirmed at Gamescom this past Sunday. And, Frankie, we were talking about this. We thought it might have been crazy if this was not included with previous owners of the game. You thought that it probably wasn't going to be based on prior history with something like Ori, for instance. But lo and behold, Microsoft has officially announced the ReCore Definitive Edition, and it will be a free update to people that already own the game. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, which is good because obviously a lot of people feel like they didn't get the full game the first time around. So to release a definitive edition and kind of trying to shaft those people would not have been the best decision. So yeah, this is a great move. So the definitive edition is going to have HDR resolution. It's going to include the this other core bot who was never included in the game, Tank. They have this Eye of Obsidian adventure. They have the 4K stuff for when the Xbox One X comes out. So sounds like a good list of enhancements overall. The game's going to be available for $19.99 when it releases this upcoming Tuesday. Is Frankie pretty happy with the way this turned out?
Yes and no. I still haven't played ReCore. Of course, I pre-ordered it when it came out last year. Still haven't played it. So if I, of course, had just waited a year, I could have spent $20. Still not played it anytime soon, probably. But I stop buying games when they come out.
Live and learn, man. Brent, any interest in returning to the world of ReCore?
I've gotten pretty far into that game.
If I'm not mistaken, you're at the end of this game, aren't you?
I'm very, very far into this game. Like I've I've got a lot of time invested into it, and I actually wouldn't mind, checking out these enhancements that they're adding into it, just to see what it improves. If it kind of gives you a little bit more to do, if it kind of cleans things up a little bit. But despite what happens in the back end of the game, the core mechanics, I actually found it really entertaining to play. It does have its strengths. I mean, I know it's got a bad rap right now, and deservedly so in some ways. But from what I had played before I got to the back half of the game, I actually really enjoyed ReCore. I thought it was a pretty good game. And like I said, I like the character, and just the mechanics with all the different core bots really allows you to explore the world in different ways. I think it had a lot of potential. I'll be interested to check out to see what the definitive edition adds to it.
Now, you ended up walking away from this one because I forget what happened, but something you had to go back and get something that they didn't tell you needed, or something along those lines.
What happened is I've actually gone. What I did is I stopped playing it, and then I came back to it and played a little bit more. But yeah, like I got to a certain point, and it didn't tell me where the hell I needed to go. And like I kept wandering into these different areas, and like these areas where the enemies were just way too strong. And I was like, where am I supposed to go here? And it just kind of like the narrative just kind of stopped. And I was like, what the hell is going on? So I ended up getting frustrated, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break from this for a while. But then I ended up going back to it like a month later and just kind of like chipping away in it. But I'm actually, like I said, pretty far along into this game now. But yeah, there was a point when you first reached the first open area, like the second half of the game, it just did a poor job of kind of like telling you where you need to go and leading you to the right direction.
Yeah. Bender, where you at with ReCore? Did you ever play this?
I did. I got it. I think I only got like 2 or 3 hours into it. So at this point,
did it just not grab you, or?
No, I liked it. I think Jewel is a cool character. I like the world and the gameplay and everything. I think I must have just gotten sidetracked, or other stuff came out that distracted me and kind of pulled me away from it. Yeah. Plus I've listened to the way Brent was talking about the ending, and he was talking about how like you have to collect these orbs, and like if you don't have enough orbs, you can't even get to the end of the game or something like that. And I was like, oh man, that sucks. So I don't know, that maybe that kind of soured me on it a little bit, but I do want to go back and check it out for the definitive edition. At this point, I think I'll probably just start over. If I do go back to it, I might as well just start over. Because I don't really remember what I was doing in the game last time I played. But I liked it enough that I do want to go back to it. So, I guess this will be a good opportunity for me to do that.
No, it's funny you mentioned that. Now I do remember what happened is I was like climbing this tower. Yeah, I'm going up this tower, and it's like it's falling apart and all this stuff's happening.
Oh, the Mega Man level.
Yeah, and I get to this door, and it's like need this. I need so many more orbs to enter. I'm like, wait a minute, this place is falling down. This place is collapsing. It's like, come back later. And I'm just like, what? Is this thing just going to sit here and shake for like the next 12 hours while I go wander around the world? Like, what the hell? This is like the climactic ending here. And they're like, oh, come back in a little bit, but it'll still be here. I mean, this place is shaking. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, I do remember that now.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's what I was trying to remember. That sounds terrible. Yeah, it's.
Because I was like, this is a weird way to kind of like, here's the final boss behind this door or whatever, or the next area. You're short 50 orbs, but head on out and we'll be waiting for you. I'm like, what?
This building will still be standing.
Yeah, it's like shaking and pieces are falling everywhere. I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah, that sucks, man. That's definitely a poor design decision on their part. I don't know why they would do something like that, especially I guess like the climax of the game. Like, why wouldn't they not admit you to that area until you have the right amount of stuff that you need?
Right.
That just seems like such a basic gameplay design thing. But yes,
I wonder if that's something that they're going to change for this definitive edition at all.
That's what I'd be curious to see is like how this new area and like all the new stuff that you're going to be doing actually factors into the game. Like a lot of me wants to see like actual new reviews of the game. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I kind of want to see if like this is actually like the complete game that we probably should have gotten last year.
And I'm kind of curious to see how this affects my save. Like what are these implementations going to do to my save? Is this going to change? Like, I'm kind of curious to see what that's going to do because I'm far along into the game and I don't really want to start over from the beginning.
That's an interesting thing too, because if it's a free update, it's going to update your game regardless if you want to or not. So
Yeah, it says this new adventure, Eye of Obsidian or whatever. So is this supposed to be like a side story outside of the main game, or are they implementing this into the game? Like, how is this working?
I don't know.
It's the rest of the game.
It's the rest of the game that was missing.
It's everything that's behind the door that I can't get into.
Yeah.
No, but I actually am really interested in playing this game. I just I never got around to it, and honestly, thank God. Sometimes it's pretty good waiting on things, but
I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of hoping to see one of the enhancements for the X would be 60 frames because I played it on PC, and man, that game when you're traversing the world at 60 frames, oh my god, it's beautiful in motion at 60 frames.
I mean, your story, Brent, is a story I've heard, from tons of people. It's basically a tale of two halves with this game. It's a game that starts off strong, and then just really falls apart in the second half for most people. So don't know how the definitive edition is going to address that, but I'll be curious to see some write-ups on this as well and see how ReCore comes out in the end. All right, let's bang through the rest of these Xbox releases. Red Out coming over there this week. Rock of Ages 2 Bigger and Bolder, Dead Alliance, Resident Evil Revelations, Pillars of Eternity, the Complete Edition, Ark Survival Evolved, the 1.0 edition, Killing Floor 2, making its way over to the Xbox One this week. Those will all be available on Tuesday. On Wednesday, Xmorph Defense, the Metronomicon, Surf World Series, Feral Fury, which is a twin-stick like sci-fi game. Eternal Blade, those are all coming out on Wednesday. On Thursday, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Episode 1 is the only Thursday release. Then on Friday, Songbringer looks badass. This game looks awesome. I'm going to play this on the Indie Spotlight the following week. So be on the lookout for this one. Very cool looking adventure title. Has elements of like Hyper Light Drifter, Zelda, Sword and Sorcery, those kind of games look to be strong inspiration for Songbringer. White Noise 2 is a like 4v1 kind of interesting take on a multiplayer horror game. Echoes of the Fae, The Fox Trail is a visual novel. Arcade Archives Neo Geo Puzzled is available right now on the platform alongside Smite Adventure, the Corrupted Arena DLC. Battlefield 1 Revolution is on there. Eventide has a bundle with both of those games on there now. And some new Xbox Game Pass games coming to the platform this week over the course. I think they're coming out between August 29th and September 1st. The coolest edition is ReCore Definitive Edition. So if you're an Xbox Game Pass member, you'll have access to that one when it comes out on Tuesday. Metro Last Light Redux, Fable 2, Geru Mark of the Wolves, 10-Second Ninja X, which is an awesome game, Hue, and The Bridge, all coming to Xbox Game Pass this week. So very, very strong lineup of games coming over to that platform. All right, let's get into Nintendo now. What we missed last week with the Switch, Arcade Archives Neo Geo Puzzled showed up on there as well. And then there's a Pokken Tournament DX demo floating around on there, which I should probably check out at some point. Curious to see how that game is.
So about that, you can only play 15 matches. Which, I mean, it makes sense in the grand scheme of things, I guess, because I think it's the full game. It's not like a limited roster.
Oh, is it the full game on the demo?
That's what I'm guessing. That's the only reason I can think why you would limit to only 15 matches. But
yeah,
so it sounds like
interesting. Okay, yeah. So check that out if you haven't. Now this week, the big title for the Switch obviously is Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
yes.
So there's been some good pre-release buzz for this game. A lot of people have enjoyed it at some of the different trade shows and conventions that have happened since E3. So, Brent, why don't you talk to me about this game, man?
I mean, this game looked awesome. I mean, when we saw this back at E3, the XCOM vibes, but then you take in the Mario and the Rabbids and all the different types of tactics that look really cool in this game. I mean, it's just it seems to be there's going to be a lot of depth here. And like I said, this is the type of game I want to play on the go. That I want to be able to pop in real quick, play through a mission, do the XCOM type of gameplay. I'm stoked for this one, dude. I'm ready for this game.
Frankie, you're an XCOM fan. You excited for Mario plus Rabbids?
Very. I'm really sad it's coming out the same week as Yakuza Kiwami. But like at the same time, the second I'm done with Kiwami, I don't care. I'm hopping right into Mario Rabbids. I can't wait. Like Brent, I'm just excited to, have Jen watching whatever on Netflix. I can just grab the Switch and basically be playing XCOM, which huge fan of XCOM. So. But yeah, ever since we saw the reveal trailer of this E3, like this has just kind of been like that end of the summer game that's been like building for me. So Can't wait.
There's a season pass announced for the game this week as well. For $20, you'll have access to eight exclusive steampunk weapons at launch if you pick up the season pass. Later this fall, there'll be new solo challenges. Man, I can't talk. New solo challenges and co-op maps. And then coming in 2018, there will be new story content as part of the season pass as well. So you can pick that up for $20 now. Bender, where you at on this game, man? Is this something you're interested in?
Yeah, definitely. This is I'm looking forward to this ever since I saw the trailers and everything and the gameplay at E3. The funny thing about this game is, like, I've never seen the overall perception of a game and the overall gamer opinion of a game change so drastically for any other game I've like, because before when that like concept art leaked or whatever, when the advertisements artwork leaked, everyone was so making fun of this game, like, oh, this is going to be terrible, this is a horrible idea. And then we all saw it at E3, we're like, oh my god, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden everyone was really looking forward to this game. It was like a complete 180. But yeah, I felt the same way. I mean, when I first heard of it, I was like, that's a stupid idea. But then I saw it and I was like, oh, that's what it is. Oh, that really looks really cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Definitely going to be something I'll be playing, on the go and my lunch break at work and everything. So yeah, it's going to be a good time, I think.
Even like the lead up to the actual like gameplay reveal was just like that really awkward Miyamoto and Yves on stage with their big blasters.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything surrounding before like actually getting to see the game in action. We're just like, God, this is going to be a nightmare. But
it's definitely a game that you can't really describe to somebody on paper, like something you got to see in motion. Because it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, Mario's got this cannon and there's rabbits and he's dressed up like Peach. It's one of those things where you're like, what in the hell are you talking about? Like, get out of here. That's like Bender said, that's a stupid idea. But when you actually see it in motion, looks like it could be a lot of fun. So Mario Rabbids will be out this Tuesday. You guys have talked about like playing this on the go and that kind of stuff. I just really don't get a chance to play games on the go, so I don't get a chance to play the Switch in handheld mode very often, or on TV mode for that matter. So I just don't know if I'm gonna be able to play this game, but I'm interested in this one as well. Game I actually might be more interested in this week is Azure Striker Gunvolt, the Striker Pack, which brings both Azure Striker Gunvolt games over to the Switch on Thursday. This is a $39.99 package. I've heard great things about these games on the 3DS. They harken back to Mega Man and games of that ilk, Gunstar Heroes. So this looks like a game that's more than up my alley. This is like up my street.
Oh boy.
Yeah, better end that metaphor before we put the age gate on the show. So I really want to check this one out on Thursday. And then a League of Evil coming this week is a $7.99 eShop title. And nothing for the Wii U or the 3DS that we missed last week or that's coming this week. All right, Brent. So that does for the very, very, very long list of new releases this week, man. It was an epic list.
Everyone trying to get out before Destiny 2, man.
Absolutely. I think the next new release list we're just gonna put Destiny 2 on there, and then that's gonna be it.
That's all it's really gonna say. So
yeah.
All right, so we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back with Patric Mondou from Borealys Games. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Thanks again to WWII for providing the music for this podcast. He does the opening, the closing, the music you just heard right there. Follow him on Twitter at WWII. Check out his music on SoundCloud. He's a very talented young man, and we appreciate his music very much. All right, guys, we talked about it earlier in the show. We're going to bring in Patric Mondou from Borealys Games to talk about Mages of Mystralia. He sat down with us on launch day. We managed to get this guy to sit down with an interview on launch day. Well, without further ado, here's our interview with Patric Mondou. All right. Hey, gamers. As we talked about earlier in the show, as Bender was talking about his time with Mages of Mystralia, we said we had somebody on from Borealys Games, and here he is, Patric Mondou. He is the creative director behind Mages of Mystralia. Patric, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. We know you got a lot going on today. It's launch day. But we always try to get somebody on from within the gaming industry because, as we've said before many a time, we're just gamers. We're not even journalists. We don't have any experience developing games. So we like to get people on from within the gaming industry to kind of shine a light on the things that go on behind the scenes of game development and all that entails. So thank you again. We really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show.
It's a pleasure, man.
Cool.
Yeah. Just to echo what Brent said, Patric. We really appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time. We know it's crazy. You guys just launched the game on consoles today, so I know there's a lot of excitement, a lot of craziness happening around the office. Yeah, we just appreciate the opportunity to chat with you for a few minutes.
It's a pleasure. That's why we do these games, right? So to have these chats and to engage with people in the community. So that's great, actually.
Awesome, man. Now for those who might be unfamiliar with Borealys Games, can you give us just a brief, just a Cliff Notes version of the studio's history? Mages is your first title as a studio, is that right?
Yeah, it is. So we started this whole adventure in 2014. Mm-hmm. We like the founders of the studio were all from different backgrounds. Some of us from more AAA studios. I was in the mobile industry, and we had some in other indie companies. And so we bunched up together, and we started this thing trying to make a game with a slightly bigger scope, a bigger scope than most other indies. And for most of us, it was like the biggest game so far that we've made, and for others from the AAA, it was more like it was a cute little project. So, but because we had all these different backgrounds, we were able to scope the game correctly and try to make it, to make something great out of the time that we had for the budget that we had. When we started in 2014, we were aiming for a 30 months production. We ended up using just a little bit more than that, but we stayed somewhat within the range of acceptable limits for our game. And so yeah, we've been doing only Mages of Mystralia for almost 3 years now. We went public for the first time last year only, so we're still new to going public and all of that. So we're still an infant, basically infant stages of the company.
Gotcha. What if you could boil it down, like what would you say your guys' mission statement is as a studio, so to speak?
So you see, most of us liked working in AAA studios. We like the vibe, we like the kind of products that we make. It's just that eventually we get to a point, right, where we have a few titles under our belt. We know how to make games, and obviously we want to try something that's a bit different. I remember for myself when I was at Gameloft in the mobile industry, I was making games, but I would always use the limitation of using a mobile device like a phone or an iPad. And for some of my coworkers, it's something different. It's another type of limitation that's often for bigger companies related to the game direction. Having a board of executives just drive the direction or the philosophy of the games that they make. And so, we wanted to make a company that's all about making accessible games because we're big fans of Nintendo. We grew up with the 8-bit NES console. We're from that era where everything seemed so simple, but at the same time, making a game was such a feat because it was all a lot of programming and even like engineering, because you had to print the cartridges and stuff. So it's like, and we really. I think that we really admire Nintendo for what they were able to make with that era or that generation of consoles, which are games that are easily picked up, and you can have fun like very quickly with a Nintendo game, especially from that era. And so it's something that we wanted to have in our games. And at the same time, because we're small and because we're smaller than other studios, and because we love making games, and because we're passionate gamers ourselves, we wanted to make games that are also slightly more innovative than what we see out there. So we wanted to experiment with new game systems, with new features that are like really unusual, and to use them in a way that everyone can enjoy them and share with their family, their friends. And so that's how we had the idea originally of Mage, because Mages of Mystralia is just that. It's a game that anybody can enjoy, or at least I hope. Everyone has the potential of enjoying the game, at least. And for the more hardcore gamers and the passionate gamers out there, where there is enough stuff to delve into, and you can really spend some time exploring the core mechanic that we have. So I think as a studio, I think that our first game really nails the philosophy and the direction that we want to have as a company.
Yeah, you're NES. You're speaking my language, man. Those are my formative years as a gamer. So I'm always down to go back and revisit that philosophy of game making. Now in terms of Mages, Patrick, what's the elevator pitch for the game? How would you describe it to someone who's never played it before? How would you describe the gameplay or the way Mages plays?
Sure. Mages of Mystralia is it's an action adventure game. It's a classic action adventure game that's all built around the concept of being a mage, a spellcaster. So it's a game in which you create your own spells in order to defeat the monsters and complete the puzzles that are laid out before you in the adventure. So if I can go a little bit more into detail for that, it's really it all comes down to the point that we felt as gamers, because that's how it started, really, us playing games and wondering, hey, how come I never feel like a mage or a spellcaster whenever I play a fantasy game? I could think of, and it's less true now, but when we started thinking of the game, it was like almost no other game had even mentioned the fact that we wanted to that they wanted the player to experience what it is to truly be a mage. And then we started thinking of just brainstorming ideas. Back then, me and my the studio co-founder Felix, we were at the university. We were colleagues back then at University of Quebec in Montreal, and we had this idea for a spellcasting system involving gestures. And I remember that there was a game that was announced for the PS Move called Sorcery, I think, and we were like, we're thinking of something along those lines, but more procedural systems where each gesture has a meaning, like in the game. And we just kept thinking of that idea. Meanwhile, we were grinding XP in the video game industry, and eventually Magica came out. And we were like, oh, Magica, that's awesome. And it's a great game. And it's super fun. It's arcade. You can pick up a friend. You learn how to play in 5 minutes. And it's super funny. And it really nails something, I think, that no other game in in which you play mages have done before. And that's actually giving you a complete experience of being a mage in that universe. And that's just, memorizing sequences of buttons basically on a keyboard, and obviously because you're feeling pressed by the enemies, you make mistakes, and these mistakes turn out to be funny. So we thought the game was great, and we were wondering how further we could go, because we were thinking that that's one version of what it is to be a mage, but we're like wondering how would it be to actually understand how magic works, understand the inner workings of the spell systems, like the behaviors and stuff, just like if we were the first mage to invent these spells. And so that's how it all began a few years ago, anyways.
Well, our reviewer Bender, he absolutely loved Mages of Mystralia. He actually issued a score today. It's one of our few perfect scores that we've ever given. He absolutely loved the game, but in particular, he really enjoyed the puzzle solving in the game. And he was curious, who designed the puzzles in Mages, and can you talk a little bit about what's the process that it takes to create a good puzzle?
Sure, good question. Hey, we started off knowing that we would need to do puzzles, to design puzzles for the game, and that's the whole reason why we did an action adventure game with it. Like, we had a cool system, we had this idea of being a mage, but then, like I said, with the philosophy of our studio, how do you make a game like that accessible? It basically, especially at the beginning when we started the project, was basically just programming spells. And funnily enough, just a side here note, we encountered a game when we were working on Mages that did just that, programming magic, and that was called Code Spells. You should look it up, Code Spells. And it's a neat little game to teach kids how to program. And we thought it was, that's great, that's awesome. And then it immediately confronted us with the idea that it was not like, it was a programming teaching tool. So obviously this was not accessible in the way that we were thinking it. We wanted something that's accessible for, a family game, basically, something that anyone can enjoy. And we started thinking, this needs to be an adventure, and there's no better way than a Metroidvania kind of progression to unlock each spell component one by one, and make sure that the player kind of masters each of them in the right order, so that they get where we're going, like what kind of strategy we're going for in the end game with the spell crafting system. And so all our puzzles are designed as basically as I wouldn't want to say tutorials, but as maybe learning steps or milestones in the player progression as a mage. And we had so many different people working on the puzzle designs in the game. You were asking who made it. Well, it's Borealys Games did the puzzles. We had some do more puzzles than others, but essentially it's really a group effort of iterating on the puzzles that we had, making sure that they were the right ones. We had two level designers in the game who did a very, very good job, Samuel Bernier and David, who really had a good eye, I think, for puzzles that were easy to grasp at the first glance, so that you kind of get what you need to do, but the steps of how to do it are kind of blurred. So I think we got to a point where we eventually, and strangely enough, that was very deep down in production, we knew what kind of puzzle we needed for the player to progress as a mage. That was like maybe 2 or 3 months before we shipped on PC. It was really like a long process before we were really, okay, that's the way we need to make the puzzles. And as a result, maybe I think we only barely just scratched the surface of the potential that we had as a puzzle game, I could say, as far as puzzles go in an action adventure game, at least. And we think that in the future, if we ever go for more content for the game or sequels or whatnot, we have tons of crazy ideas that we could do with it. And we're only just beginning, I think, the process of making fun stuff for Mages.
That's awesome, because I played a little bit earlier today. I played it for an hour or so, and I ran into a couple of these puzzles. And some of them, like you said, you can look at it and you're like, I know how I have to solve it, but how you solve it can be a little tricky. A lot of it, some of it's timing, some of it's and one thing Benner mentioned that I do like that's in the game is there's a hint station at most of these puzzles, and some of them that will tell you, do you have the abilities to solve this, instead of sitting there for like 20, 30 minutes banging your head against the wall because you can't figure it out, but you actually don't have the correct spells to pull them off. So I did appreciate that. So, but some of those puzzles are actually pretty tricky, and I really enjoy what I've played so far with those. But I want to touch on the crafting system now for a moment. The spell crafting has been a favorite of those who have played the game. It's obviously one of probably the biggest crux of the game. How did you come up with the idea for the spell crafting system, and did you hit any roadblocks in your efforts to make it as intuitive as possible?
Oh, hell yeah. Roadblocks. It's all about roadblocks. We had so many roadblocks, it felt like I was in a police chase. Yeah. The spell system, we started off knowing, like I mentioned, right, that it kind of felt like a programming tool, at least at some point in the production. We had this, we started off just deciding how to split up the spell system. What are the modules? What are the smallest components of a spell? So we have like the elements, right? Is it fire? Is it cold or whatever? Mm-hmm. Is it a behavior, or is it just a tweaking? Some things are like have a larger effect or a more dramatic effect on the spells than others. And then we have all the matter of timing. At the beginning, we wanted to do like anything that can be done in a game with magic. We wanted it possible in the game. Of course, we had to lower our expectations at some point, but like we wanted, like, do you wish to channel your spell? So like you constantly cast it and does something. Do you wish to have a long casting time, and at the end of this 5 seconds casting, it shoots like a super extreme spell? Do we want it to be instantaneous? So we thought of all the spell systems that we knew, Dungeons and Dragons, all the MMOs, Diablo, some other spells like maybe Sorcery, the game that came out, or Magicka. These were good references too. And we were like, okay, so how small do we want our modules to be, our components? And once we made that, the first step was to create a system where we could basically just just decide whether a spell has these different behaviors or whatever, and see how many different variables we needed to tweak in order for it to be interesting. And at that point, the spells were super ugly, because making the spell system influence the effects, the particle systems that we had in the game was very, very hard. And we didn't even know if we wanted this specific configuration yet for the components. And I think it took us a year just to get there, and wow. we were at a loss at that point a little bit, because we had spent so much time on the spell system that we had almost we couldn't start with the level design and the world design yet, because we didn't know how to design puzzles, or how to design monsters, or how to design progression blockers in the game, and we didn't have anything. We didn't have a story yet. We didn't have character design had just begun. So we even thought of doing the game in 2D at some point, just to simplify things. And then we started playing. We started bringing in playtesters from our community, our group of friends from the industry, or just friends, period. We brought them in, had them play the game, and get some feedback. And that's where it really started just changing, because well, first of all, we noticed that programming was not for everyone. So everyone was utterly failing at creating even the simplest spell, or understanding why they failed at. And that's actually the bad part, because I don't mind players not getting it the first time, but you need to understand why they failed it. And that's the basis of any good game, I think, any good accessible game. Every Nintendo game does that. they have like whether it's Zelda or Mario or whatever, they start off, giving you a challenge that you will fail, but you understand why you failed it, and you figure out how to circumvent that in the future. And we iterated. Eventually, we dumbed the system down to something that was really, really uninteresting, that amounted to a just customization like you would have in Diablo 3 with the rune system. We were a bit disappointed with that, but we kept on working, and we went back and forth from something that's overly complex to something that's way too basic, and we just kept doing that until we just found the balance spread between the two.
Yeah, it's really impressive because when I first got in there and I got my first couple runes, I was like, oh, okay, I can put one of these things, and I put one with the fire ability, and it was the move rune, and I was like, oh, now I can shoot my fireballs. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I got into combat, and I was like, I like this shield, and I was like, well, wait a minute, I realized I can use this rune on one of these other different abilities, and I put it over where the shield is, and now I have a dodge ability. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really going to open up quite a bit the more runes that I get. So I mean, it's simple and it's intuitive, and understanding how it works, but there's a lot of depth there with all the different types of runes that you can be able to use. So I think that's really, really interesting. I think that was implemented very, very well early on. I can't wait to see how badass my mage can get with some more of these runes. So very cool stuff.
Thank you.
One of the other things Bender wanted to ask you about was he was impressed by how deep the narrative and the lore actually was. I mean, for a game like this that specializes in the spells, you would think it's more focused on gameplay, but you guys went out and started working with Ed Greenwood, legendary Ed Greenwood, on the narrative. How did that relationship start?
I was saying we were at that point where we felt that the game was really not advancing. The production was not advancing as quickly as we thought because we were spending so much time on the spell system. And one of the things that occurred to us at that point is that we would probably need help. Especially with us not being native English speakers, we thought, why not get a professional writer? And so we started looking for a writer, and it's super weird because Ed, at the same time, or like in the weeks before we started looking for a writer, he put out a video on YouTube asking basically asking the community of his fans for work. He was like, hey, I want to get into one of your projects. Pitch me your ideas. I want to be part of your projects. And we're like, wow, this is weird. We'll try. We're big fans of Ed anyways, because we all played Dungeons and Dragons when we were kids, and if you played Dungeons and Dragons, obviously you know of the Forgotten Realms, and this guy invented the Forgotten Realms. So what better way to kickstart, the lore and the building the world of Mystralia? So, and at that point, we were not expecting him to return our call, even though he called for projects. We're like, yeah, well, we'll pitch a project about our project, which is about magic, and we're like, hey, you created the character of Elminster, so obviously you're the guy for for the work. And he immediately said yes. We sent him the demo of the game that we had so far. He really, really enjoyed it. So he poked us back. It really went quickly from that point on. We discussed what was our philosophy, what were our expectations, and what we had so far in terms of world building, which was not that much. We had things, we had pointers and ideas, but no real link or coherence between all these different parts. And so, it took him a few weeks to get a first draft, and then he just, we asked him for, just say we would like to have maybe 10, 20 pages of both lore and maybe a few lines of dialogues for our main character at first. We'll start with that. He sent us like a 60 pages long text, like full of excerpts from past, like encyclopedic type of entries or articles, like all the background stories of all the areas in the game. He even had some pointers for sequels. We're like, what?
Wow.
That's great. That's cool. So he's like a very creative guy, just constantly thinking of ideas. So yeah, it was like, on top of being just some sort of a nerd dream come true of working with him, it went super well. So I can't complain.
No, heck no, that's awesome.
That's a cool story. It's like the planets aligned for you guys, and it's just like, it's just like meant to happen. That's cool. Patrick, I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but when you were talking about the history of the studio. But in terms of like your inspirations, either for Mages or for the studio as a whole, is there anything specific, like outside of Magica, or maybe some specific Nintendo games that you guys look to as inspiration for your studio? Also, any I don't know, any cool development stories you guys have that you might want to share with us?
I'll start with maybe the games that are inspire me, at least. I think I think we share most of these games as strong inspirations. But of course, I'm a big Nintendo fan. But I think what compels me the most to play a game, what I find the most interesting in a game is how they can surprise us, how they can make us live an experience, think, and if a game is basically too similar to other games, or if a game constantly just shows me things that I already know, or uses the same behaviors or same mechanics over and over again, I kind of get bored of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't usually finish a game for the story. That's not my type of game, which is, like you said, strangely enough, I think it's one aspect that we worked a lot on Mages of Mystralia, but it was not our core focus, and you're right about it. And strangely enough, again, just maybe gonna do a side note here, it might have caused us, some players and even some reviewers, to rate us more, or to critique us with more I would say like mitigated notes or reviews, simply because we obviously didn't put as much energy and as much work on that, all the world building, as we did on the spell system. And of course, for some players who like games and like stories in games and like cinematics, they might feel that the game is not there yet. And I kind of agree with that, because we're not that type of gamer, because of what I'm gonna tell you right now. And that's a story in a game for me is not relevant, or it's fine if you have it, it's cool. It's just that a game is about living an experience, and often the best experiences are the stories that you make yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And with that in mind, games in the recent past, like Minecraft, like Don't Starve, are so interesting, because they make me feel like all sorts of weird emotions, and they are very, very complete experiences. They are surprising. They make me think, and they don't need to be open world games either. Some other games have done that too. I could think of going further back, maybe Braid did that. You could think of The Witness. Well, it's the same guy. I need to find another example. Maybe those are games are kind of intriguing too, because they kind of touch the story. They're very strong with the story, but they have a lot of depth behind them too. You can think of Overwatch. Overwatch is very, very well done. It's like it's very polished,
Mm-hmm.
but the story is not in your face. It's very nicely done with environmental storytelling. And when you play the game, even though it's a multiplayer game, you kind of feel that you're actually in a game world that makes sense. And so I respect that, and that is what I'm looking for in games. And that's why maybe I had one of the most one of the strongest gameplay experience since I don't remember when we were wrapping up Mages. That's when Breath of the Wild came out, and I think that game, if I ever have to give a perfect score to a game, I don't see any game that I should give that perfect score to other than Breath of the Wild, simply because they have nailed that like perfectly, having like a narrative, but it's not forced on you. It's very well integrated into an exploration and into a game that will make the player live his own story and his own experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's the perfect example of how you can achieve that. But it takes time. It takes years. And I'm pretty sure that they've done Breath of the Wild with more budget, not only more budget, but more time on their hands than what we had when we started making Mages.
Right.
So you wanted an anecdote? Well, that's one I could give you. When Breath of the Wild came out, I think that we were two in the studio who had a Wii U or a Switch or whatever who played the game. Like, I think we sickened the people in the studio so much about the Breath of the Wild that I'm sure that they were not gonna even try to play it for 6 months still, because they can't hear us talk about that game anymore. Because every morning that we came in, we always had a story. Did you see this awesome mountain? I cannot believe they designed this in this specific spot. I cannot believe they went so far as to do, this specific thing. And it was constantly surprising me and just making me realize that we've only, even though, open world is a pretty established genre, like Nintendo once again just shows us that we've only just starting exploring what are the boundaries of that genre, mm-hmm. just like they did with so many other genres before. So I'm pretty impressed by that.
Gosh, I tell you what, now it makes sense why Bender likes your games so much.
Yeah. Your
inspiration comes from Breath of the Wild. You love Breath of the Wild. He loves Breath of the Wild. You and Bender would have a lot to talk about.
It's interesting you mentioned Overwatch too, Patrick. That's a game where, like you said, it's a multiplayer focused game and it doesn't throw the story in your face. The really interesting thing about that game is how the players almost have created the story, like behind the scenes. Like there's all this fan fiction and like people really, really go nuts for these characters, and they, Blizzard puts out a little, animated video every now and then to introduce one of these characters. But other than that, it's the player base has created this whole story around it. It's really interesting to watch how that plays out.
And I would say the same for Minecraft and so many other games out there that kind of give the tools for the players to just create something wild. And I think in the case of Overwatch, Blizzard kind of gave them a little push there with you mentioned the animated videos that they put out. There's also all sorts of mini dialogues that you hear in game where some of the characters will just interact together, and sometimes it will give you an insight on what the world is about. So you kind of figure out the broad strokes of that world, that game world. So there are some robots called Omnics, and they have they're persecuted for some reason, and then you get that some of the characters are against these Omnics and others are trying to protect them. And so that's I think the best way to create a game is give some to the player. It's just like playing a D&D game. If you're a dungeon master and you're DMing your game, and you never let your players come up with their own expansion of the game world, then you're not playing the game right. A game like Dungeons and Dragons is also about letting the players define the backstory of their characters and letting them affect the game the world that you created. Mm-hmm. So I think it's only natural that in video games we strive, or we aim to do that eventually. As the technologies and as the game development tools become more and more advanced, that we get the chance to actually try to do that. It's only natural that we actually do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just a couple more questions for you, Patrick. I know you guys have brought Mages of Mystralia to several PAX shows in the past. Bender actually was at the most recent PAX South when he got his hands on it. What was that experience like? And in what ways does the direct player feedback from the events like PAX help shape the game's development? I mean, I know at PAX, you got people coming in playing, they can only play for a short amount of time, but do you take that feedback back to the studio after you go to these shows?
Oh yeah, definitely. We're actually we're at the first show we did was PAX East. We were even communicating live with the studio and trying to hotfix some stuff that was happening in the game, because it was one of the first times that we had people play it without explanation, without us actually, for playtesters or whatever. Because yeah, it was really the first time where we could actually let players explore the spell system, and so we had all sorts of weird problems and crashes and blockers, and so we were constantly just sending emails back home. Guys, fix this, please. We really need it. We have a media outlet coming in, like GameSpot is coming. You really need to fix this. So it's not only for the bugs actually, though. It's more for, I think, getting a feel of the reception before we even launch or even have a pre-order, or way before we had a Kickstarter, way before we even thought we wanted to do a Kickstarter. We could have this feedback, and it's not the same you get by email or on a forum. It's really looking at the players, looking them straight in the eye and seeing how they react. Even though they say, "Oh, I had a great time," sometimes "I had a great time" means I had the best time today, or I had a okay time, but all the games here are cool, and nobody has an infinite budget for games, So we're like trying to see, hey, we want our game to be memorable. We want players to buy it eventually because we want to make more games in the future. So that player who's playing the game, what is he thinking? And so we can really analyze that much further when we're at an event. And one cool thing that's in an event too, and I really must not brush this aside, is the brotherhood of game developers that there are there at, and I wouldn't say only game developers. I would say game press, game developers, and esport players. They're all like a strong community, really tightly knit together. And when there are events at PAX, whether it's an event hosted by Twitch or by Sony, and there are tons at these events. So you go at a dinner or Sony party after one of the days at PAX, and this is where you bond with people that live through the same problems as you, that breathe and eat video games just as you do. Mm-hmm. And it's such a comforting thought to know that there are other people like you out there, and that you can exchange with them, and that eventually we all work towards the same goal, and that is entertain people.
Yeah, Patrick, you actually mentioned something there about Kickstarter. We also wanted to ask you a little bit about that. What was that experience like? Is Kickstarter something? Is that something you would consider again in the future?
I wouldn't do it the same way. We need to eventually discuss that. We didn't have the time to just discuss and just a post-mortem of the Kickstarter experience yet. But yeah, I don't know. All sorts of. I feel that we had to do it, and I think we succeeded at it too. It was a very successful Kickstarter, and. Would I want it to do it again? I'm not even sure, because there are some aspects to it that we were not aware of that eventually occurred to us as we were finishing the Kickstarter. One of the things is that you kind of promise something. It's the first time you promise something, and if something goes bad, if you don't meet your deadlines, if you cannot do a feature, you kind of feel obliged to do them anyways. And even though they might end up being something that's not as nil or as polished as the other things that we've been developing in the rest of the production. So it's a very awkward feeling, and it's also you never want to disappoint the backers on Kickstarter. It's like 10 times worse than disappointing a player, because these players these people believe in your product even before it was available. So they had nothing, like they didn't have a demo yet or whatever. They just trusted you. Yeah, I trust you that this game is going to be awesome. So they pledge money, and some of them pledge a lot of money. And I'm sure that everyone is just like me, meaning that they would like to spend as much money as they want on video games, but obviously you cannot. So you have to decide how you spend it. And so for players to decide to support our game, it meant a lot to us, and it's a pressure that was a bit disconcerting at the end of production there, as we wanted to wrap it up. And I think one thing we would do different, anyways, if we did a Kickstarter in the future, is try to put more distance between the Kickstarter and the expected release date, and be really open and honest about the promise of the game. And I would probably try to have much more interaction with the community after the Kickstarter, because it's something we didn't have the time to do. We did our Kickstarter, and you guys probably noticed that our game was very advanced when we started the campaign. We did it because we felt that, and we just had run out of budget, and we were thinking we could either release this game or we can spend a few extra months. We only needed 3 extra months for PC, or 2 extra months for PC, and a few more months for for console. And then the game will be pretty much, we will be proud of what we've achieved, and it will be that, and it will be a great game, and a much greater game than what it would be if we hadn't done a Kickstarter. But it was a last minute decision nonetheless, and that is something that needs to change. Kickstarter needs to remain, maybe more than I thought when we started the campaign. It needs to remain a platform where the players and the community, or sometimes it's not games, it's some other product, but in which they can give their opinion and they can participate in the creation of whatever you're making.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question for you, Patrick. I know it's a little too soon to be looking down the line. I mean, obviously, Mages of Mystralia has just launched on console, but what's the future look like for Borealys Games and Mages of Mystralia? Without spoiling the ending of the game, Bender noticed that there might be an opening for a potential sequel. Is that possibility that's being actively discussed within your studio?
It's actively discussed, and it's something that Mages of Mystralia is not something that we put out there on Steam and on PSN Store and on Good Old Games and on Xbox. It's something that we really hope and plan on improving in the very near future as much as we can. We're not done with this game yet. Even this version of the game. I'm not even talking about sequels. And then yes, sequels or DLCs or whatever, or just like content updates is something that we have in mind. We have so much room for expansion. I discussed earlier how we barely just scratched the surface of the possibilities with the spell systems and with environmental puzzles, and that is true. And so there's a lot of I think there's a lot of content to be made for Mages, and I'm sure this will bring us to make eventually the actual sequel to the story itself. And if it's not soon, it's going to be not so soon, but still in a reasonable future, and within a foreseeable future at least. And we have so many other projects that we want to make, so we'll see what comes next. But one thing for sure is you've not seen the end of Mystralia. That's for sure.
Awesome. That's really good to hear. And this is the bonus question, and obviously I've seen your guys' Twitter account get asked this 1,000 times a day. We've got the PS4 version, we've got the Xbox One version, we've got one on PC, and now you got this little system that's getting pretty big, the Nintendo Switch. Yeah. Any interest in that platform?
Yeah, we do. We're very interested. I think it's a matter of priority for Nintendo. These guys have a new platform, so obviously they're giving priority to new games. for them, a port of a game that's already out there is not as interesting. So I'm respecting their patience, and or actually we're respecting their pace, and we're being patient about it because it's a company that we respect a lot. We want to be on the Switch. I think that we would appeal to that market a lot because it's a game that could benefit from being portable, that you can play with tiny sessions, tiny little bit of sessions, and it's also family friendly game. So I would definitely see that game on Switch. One thing, like a few things is obviously none of us have experience porting on the Switch yet. It's so new. So even if we could start the process right now, how much time would it take? We don't know. But it's I would really like to see it out there on the Switch as fast as possible, but it won't be, at least this year. It's impossible for 2017, that's for sure.
Cool. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to us, talk about Mages of Mystralia and Borealys Games, kind of let our listeners know who you guys are and what the inspiration was behind your title. It's a great game. Bender loved it. I'm enjoying what I've played so far. It's reviewed very well on just about every platform it's been on. So I know you got a busy day today, but we can't thank you enough for being here, man. We really appreciate it, and we wish you guys the best of luck going forward, man.
Hey guys, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick.
Bye-bye.
Take care, man. All right, welcome back, and thanks again to Patrick for taking the time out of his busy schedule. We know they were very busy at the studio with the launch of Mages of Mystralia, but it's always awesome to get people from within the industry onto the show to kind of give you guys and girls an idea of what goes on with game development and everything that goes into it. I actually found that Kickstarter segment to be very interesting. So, there's a lot to learn when you're using Kickstarter. But no, thanks again, Patrick. We really appreciate it. And really, seriously, best of luck to Borealys Games going forward. They're a very talented studio. And Mages of Mystralia proves that. And they've got a bright future ahead of them.
Indeed.
All right.
I want
guys.
more Mages.
I want more Mages. I would like to see a sequel. And Bender, as you heard in that interview, there's, not to be too spoiler, but there's an opening in that game for a sequel, correct?
Sounds like it, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
I like what he was saying there. That sounds like they might be adding some more content to the game. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, that was a really good interview. I like the some of the answers he gave.
Guy's very enthusiastic. You can tell he's passionate about games, and that's the side of developers I don't think gamers get to see a lot of. So it's nice to get him on once in a while.
I was gonna say it was a lot of fun talking to Patrick, and what you guys don't see is the technical difficulties we had with that interview. Like you see the finished product, and you'll see and hear it on the podcast here. But we actually we lost the feed. We had to restart the interview. It was there was a lot going on with the interview. Patrick was cool with all of it as we worked through everything. So he was an awesome dude. A lot of fun to talk to. And I had a good time talking to him about Mages.
Mm-hmm.
I just love how genuinely enthusiastic he is about the game. That's like the one thing, like, as throughout the entirety of that interview, it's infectious seeing him so passionate about the game that they created.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're really proud of that game, and they should be. I mean, it's a fantastic product, and like I said, it just speaks volumes about the talent at that studio. And I think I speak for all of us that we can't wait to see what they work on next. So, But all right, let's jump into the news. We got a lot to talk about. Obviously, we could talk about Gamescom, and we will, but hell, Destiny 2. Why not? Let's talk some Destiny 2. Before we get into the Destiny 2 news, I don't know if you guys saw it, but on our Twitter page and our Facebook page, we've announced that next weekend, obviously there's no podcast next weekend because it's Labor Day weekend, but we will have a video or a stream of some sorts where we're going to kind of talk about Destiny 2, our expectations, what we're hoping to see from it, any concerns we may have. So we're going to do a live stream of Destiny 2 a couple days before launch, but we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts on Destiny 2 as we approach the release. What are your concerns? What are you looking forward to? What do you hope to see? We want to hear from you. So send us an email, podcast@shortpause.com. And we're going to take the 3 best emails that we get. We'll discuss them on the air. And we'll also give you a $20 gift card of your choice, either PSN or Xbox Live. So we'll take the 3 best emails that we get, discuss them on the air, and those 3 people will win a gift card of their choice. So make sure you hit us up, podcast@shortpause.com. Let us know what you're hoping to see from Destiny 2, what you're excited about, and what you're doing that week. Are you taking days off? Are you going to stay up all night? Let us know what you're going to be doing when Destiny 2 drops. Now, on to the Destiny 2 news. We got some videos this week. First up, exploring the European Dead Zone. We got to see just kind of how expansive this area is going to be. And boys, there was a lot going on in the European Dead Zone, dude.
There was, man. This was, even though we've been talking a lot about Destiny, like leading up to its release, the game is still very like shrouded in mystery, right? Like we know how the game begins, and we know, some things here and there, but a lot of it was mysterious, especially in regards to how the open world was going to work. And this was kind of our first taste of some like real tangible evidence of how that was going to be. And I don't know about you, but this looks like everything that I wanted it to be. Like watching this stuff. So like we've got to see some of these adventures that are out there in the world, and these look to be sizable chunks of content. There's voiceover, there's story content, there's multiple missions that are part of these adventures. So those look awesome. We saw some lost sectors in action. Those look awesome, like finding these hidden entrances, going on into these labyrinths, tracking down this boss character, beating the hell out of him and grabbing the loot. That's it. That's down in that area. We saw the heroic public events. The thing I thought was interesting about these two is that Destiny doesn't tell you how to trigger these events. So you have to, like, by trial and error, figure out how to trigger a heroic version of the public event. And one thing I was reading likened it into like the challenge mode in the raid, or something along those lines. We're gonna have to figure out exactly what the mechanic is to trigger the heroic version of the raid for whatever, or of the public event for whatever particular public event you're doing. So I think that sounds awesome. We saw this guy, what's his name, Zevrim or something, Dekrim, I think that's his name. Dekrim, who's like the lead NPC character in the European Dead Zone. So we see him out there. He's got his own faction. He's got his own like standing that you get with him. He's got his own weapons and gear that you can get by doing stuff in the European Dead Zone. So he's kind of seems like he's the guy that's gonna lead the charge, or in terms of the story content with the adventures. We saw them get into the map. So we saw the map in action. I like too that they displayed the landing points. So when you first get to the planet, these aren't all going to be opened up, but when you unlock these landing points around the map, you can actually fast travel over there to the area that you want to go into, which is awesome. So, man, just watching this got me juiced, man. And some people there that played in the Dead Zone here, we've heard how big this is, but I was reading, I think it was I was reading a DualShockers piece, and these guys spent 30 hours over the course of like 3 or 4 days in the European Dead Zone, like doing some of the different stuff in there. So that's a lot of content in this zone to get in there and play around with. But this is exactly what I was hoping for from the open world and Destiny. From everything I've seen so far, man, like I'm jacked. This is like what I'm waiting for. This is what I'm looking forward to out of this. Cannot wait to touch down in these locations and start exploring these places, man. I'm juiced.
Bender, did you watch this trailer?
I didn't watch the video because I don't want to spoil too much of it, but I did read some of the details in the article. Sounds really, really cool. I think I'm really looking forward to getting into some of those adventure missions, whatever they're called, that are like little mini story quests that with like where you interact with other characters and going on little side quests. I think that sounds really, really cool. Yeah, and those heroic public events, it's going to be fun to try to figure out how to trigger those and everything, and all the stuff I've been reading about sounds awesome. So it sounds like they're gonna really ramp up the story content, and there's going to be plenty to do. I also like the idea that they're gonna have basically the public event tracker is going to be in the game, so you can see on the map when the next public event is going to happen, so you don't have to go to destinypublicevents.com anymore or anything like that. Which shout out to those guys, whoever made that site. I mean, that thing was awesome. that was extremely useful for Destiny 1, but it's going to be very helpful to have it in the game now, so that's awesome. So yeah, everything I've been reading about and hearing about and all that stuff, I just can't wait. It's gonna be a fun time.
I'm just all about lost sectors, man. I'm gonna be scouring the map for lost sectors. I will find the entrances to every lost sector. That's what I'm most hyped about. I mean, we saw that in the video, and these areas are not just like some small corridors. I mean, these are massive areas that you'll discover underground or hidden away, and it's just, that's all I want to do. I just want to walk around and discover stuff.
Dude, one of the videos I was watching, they were talking about they were doing a public event, and then as they were doing an event, out of the corner of his eye, he caught the lost sector symbol in the distance. So he was like, "Oh man, there's something over there to investigate." Finish up the public event, and then worked his way over to the lost sector, tried to find the entrance. So it's like that symbol is peppered throughout the environment, so you're just gonna kind of catch it every now and then. Be like, it's on the map as well, but you'll be able to catch it. And be like, okay, let me see if I can head over here and try to find the entrance. They also showed these what they call the regional chests, which are basically like the gold chests from Destiny 1. But these are littered throughout the world as well, and they show up on your. They have a special signal or a symbol that they show up on your map with, and these are like hidden chests around the map that you can find that give you specific loot as well. So I thought that was cool.
One of the things that we also found out is that exotic engrams will drop out in the world even without 3 of coins. This will be a very rewarding game, much more so than its predecessors. Players can get rewarded for just about everything while exploring the European Dead Zone. What really came as a surprise, though, for some of these people that got their hands on it was the fact that some of those rewards included exotics. Whether they were just roaming around the open world, doing patrols, lost sectors, public events, whatever. But it's not entirely clear what exotics are on the loot table for engrams. It could be like 3 of coins exotic engrams, which have set drops. It is known that, just like in the first Destiny, some weapons will be locked behind quests, forcing players to earn their power. But it's still pretty interesting to know that they can drop without any help of special coins or consumables, but just by simply playing the game. That's pretty sweet, man. You're going to have a chance in an exotic no matter what you're doing. You don't have to have any like special settings for it.
Yeah, that's cool. This is one of the other kind of mysterious things about Destiny 2 is what role Xur is going to play. In Destiny 2, like we assume he survived. There's kind of a little things that pick up on him throughout some of the Destiny stuff that we've seen. So I'll be curious to see what his role in it is. Does he still just sell the exotic weapons, and maybe he just doesn't sell the 3 coins anymore, or how is he going to factor into things? But yeah, I think it's cool that we can go out and do some of these things like lost sectors or heroic events and gain access to some of these exotic engrams out in the world.
Bender, what do you think about that, man? Exotics just dropping at any point.
I think that's cool. Yeah, give us little rewards here and there, little surprises that we may not expect. So yeah, I think that'd be fine.
Frankie, the thoughts of exotics dropping, do you think that kind of takes some weight, or do you like the idea of earning them in the big battles or doing special things, or do you like the idea that an exotic can drop occasionally here and there?
I like the idea of getting one here and there, only because I can tell you from experience that if you have really bad luck with drops in regular Destiny and your exotic drops, yeah, shut up. You got a 4th horseman. Come back to me when you get hard lights for a month. But stuff like that, like a soul crushing, and there aren't really many opportunities for you to get other guns otherwise. So I think finding ways to expand the possibility of getting some better stuff and cooler stuff more frequently is a good idea.
Yeah, I'm hyped, man. I think that sounds pretty cool. But I still want to be able to. I still like knowing that to get the good stuff, you're going to have to complete the big missions, because that's the ultimate goal. You want to get through the big stuff, get to the end game. But I do like that an exotic can drop here and there.
Yeah, I just hope it's not like Sleeper Simulant where it's waiting for them to flip a switch for some mission to go off.
Right.
That really made me mad, but...
we also got a couple of trailers this week. First of all, the new launch trailer. Wow. I don't know if you guys saw that thing. Boys, did you check that out?
Yeah. many times. So
are we allowed to read his like description of this on the air?
I'm gonna say no, but yeah, he's pretty on point with it.
Yeah, dude, this trailer with like the Gaul voiceovers and like Zavala and Ikora and like everybody, like the voice and the music, which was like ripped from a Christopher Nolan movie, is like playing throughout this trailer. It's just like by the time you get to the end of this trailer, you're just like standing up out of your seat. You're ready to just like hit the front lines of battle and just like, you know, take back the city. Yeah, this thing is just gets you hyped, man.
Mm-hmm. Benner, did you see the trailer?
I actually did. Yeah, this I couldn't resist when I saw Ben's description of it in the outline. I was like, okay, I have to check it out. But yeah, it was a cool trailer. Definitely got me hyped up for the game and for all the story and everything. So yeah, I can't wait to play.
I tell you what, that trailer, that and the European Dead Zone trailer, you can actually set it on YouTube to watch it at like 1080p 60, because it looks like they're using the PC footage. My goodness, that game running at 60 frames with everything that's going on looks absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I think Bungie's really done something special with the PC version. I mean, it's going to be a great game. It doesn't matter what you play it on, but you know, from a visuals perspective, seeing a game like that running at 60 frames is just it's fantastic in the trailer. If you watch the trailer, flip it on the 60 frames just to get a look at it. It's really fantastic in motion.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
But speaking of 60 frames, Bungie talked a little bit about Destiny 2 and what it would have meant for the game had they forced 60 frames onto it. This is from executive producer Mark Noseworthy. This is what he had to say. It's about the simulation of the Destiny world. 30 AI at once, large open spaces, 6 players, sometimes with vehicles, and dropships coming in. That's where we're using the CPU. Could we make a Destiny game that ran at 60 frames? Yes, but the space would be smaller. It would be less cooperative, and there'd be fewer monsters to shoot. That's not the game we want to make. He went on to say, first and foremost, we're trying to make an incredible action game. We don't feel we've been held back by the choices we've made about world simulation versus frame rate. In fact, we think we're offering a player experience you can't have elsewhere because of the choices we're making. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want them making smaller worlds or knocking down enemy counts or anything like that. I want this to be the biggest game ever. And if that means it can't be 60 frames on consoles, so be it.
Dude, I've said this before, and I'll say it again here, but Destiny is the one game, especially the one shooter, that I don't play that game, and I say to myself, man, I really wish that this game had a different frame rate because it would run differently. I just it's just the way the game feels, the way it plays, like how smooth it is. The fact that this one's 30 frames just doesn't bother me. Mm-hmm. You know, is it gonna have a higher frame rate on PC and look great? Yeah, of course, and that's great. But I'm gonna be playing it on consoles, and I'm perfectly fine with the game being 30 frames if it continues to run at the technical level that Destiny 1 ran at. So if it's the same kind of technical showpiece that the first game was, and the resolution sharper, like we've already seen, this is a sharper looking game even than Destiny 1. So if it looks the way it does, it plays the way it does, it's as smooth as it is at 30 frames, and we get this giant open world and all these things to do and these enemy encounters and co-op and all that stuff, I'm totally cool with that, man, because I just think the way Destiny looks, feels, and plays is second to none. So if they don't change that and in order to meet their vision, like I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm. Now, Frankie, it's no secret you and I are big fans of frame rate over resolution. A smooth frame rate's always a beautiful thing. But can you imagine, Destiny 1 and the raids being smaller and the Prison of Elders with fewer enemies, kind of taking away some of that intensity? Would you want to see all those sacrifices just to get 60 frames? Like, is Destiny the exception?
Yeah, it really is. It's just the way that, like Ben said, the way that Destiny plays, it's just the straight gameplay of that game is addicting just the way it is. I don't think it needs to be faster, and part of the addiction of the gameplay is the fact that there are going to be tons and tons of enemies for you to mow down. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how satisfying it is just like seriously sitting there mowing down like a horde of like 20 thralls running at you. Mm-hmm. It's just so satisfying watching them all explode. And if you're telling me that I'm going to drop down to like 5 to 10 thralls, like that's not that exciting.
Right.
Or you
Exactly.
get that huge spawn that comes in, you pop your super, you just storm trance like 20 dudes at once, or
Yes.
you know, like how awesome is that feeling when you just
Mhm.
mow through an entire horde of enemies?
Yeah, exactly. So sacrificing that just so the game runs a little faster, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Bender, where are you at on this, man? Would you want to see Destiny scaled down, fewer enemies, smaller spaces, smaller raids, not 6-player squads, dumber AI, all that jazz? Would you rather have all that and have a 60 frame rate game?
No. I think Destiny's perfectly fine at 30 frames. Gameplay is great. So no, that would not be a concession I would want to make.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, Brent, I don't know what it is, man, but Destiny is just the exception to the shooter rule. Like every other shooter I've ever played, I'm just like, yeah, this needs to be at 60 frames, like to be a proper shooter. But this game, for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel like it's off at 30 frames. It feels like it's right at home there. Yeah, I can't describe it. Like you have to play the game to just kind of just know what I'm talking about. But just, I don't know. It just feels right.
One of the games that'll force you to think that way too is like Rainbow Six Siege. I mean, you play multiplayer 60 frames,
Mhm.
then you go over to the, we go over to the terrace. I'm like, man, this is 30 frames. What? Are you kidding me? It just didn't feel right. But with Destiny 2, for whatever reason, Bungie just nailed it, man. They know how to make a great game at 30 frames, and I don't want to see them sacrifice anything just to hit 60. No way.
I think too, like just from my experiences of Destiny, I think a lot of it is just the pacing of the game. You know, you're kind of going through all these large sprawling areas. You know, you have all these enemies all over the place. Even, you know, like when we go in to do certain strikes, like, you know, Ben and Bender will be over here, and there's a group of enemies fighting them, and I'll be up over here, and there's another group of enemies up over there. We're all in the same game, mind you. So it's all these enemies over here, over there, and you got a main big enemy shooting at everybody. Like the Destiny itself is intense with the areas that it already has in it. So if, again, you're scaling that down to a smaller thing, it's just not the same game.
No, it needs that massive scale and scope, and that's what makes Destiny Destiny. So we're all in agreement here that this game does not have to be 60 frames. Does it look beautiful at 60 frames? Yeah, nobody's going to say it doesn't look good at 60 frames. I mean, it's a massive scope game that looks awesome at 60 frames on PC. That's awesome. But for people on console, we're not missing anything. We're still getting the scope and scale and the excitement at a nice smooth 30. So it's a win-win regardless of what platform you're playing on. But I would never, ever want them to make concessions to the scale and scope of Destiny. Never, just to get a higher frame rate.
I agree.
The last thing about Destiny 2 we want to talk about a little bit is the trophies have been revealed. And, geez, a drastic departure from Destiny 1. Destiny 2 only has 14 trophies. We have a platinum, 2 silvers, and the rest are gold. Boys, now as this trophy hunter, all you guys are like deep trophy hunters. 14 trophies?
Yeah, I personally think this list sucks. It's just all like basic stuff that you do in the game. It's not really pushing you to do anything kind of out of your comfort zone or anything. You know, it's cool to get all the golds and you know, obviously to get the platinum and that kind of stuff. And it looks like it's going to be an easier platinum to get than Destiny 1. But you know, I like trophy lists that kind of have you mine the game and do a lot of the different things that are available to you. I personally would prefer to have, you know, 55 trophies in here, have 30 bronze and you know, a variety of like silver and golds in there as well. So I'm not a huge fan of this trophy list. I think it's just they kind of mailed it in with this one. But you know, this is what it is.
Frankie, I know you're a big-time trophy hunter. You look at Destiny 2, and they talk about how much bigger this game is going to be. More story, more lost. You got lost sectors, you got adventures. But now we're whittling it down to 14 trophies. Like Ben says, they're just very generic trophies. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities to have some pretty unique, ultra-rare trophies in there with as much as they're adding on here. What are your thoughts on this?
I actually don't mind it, only because even after 400 hours of playing Destiny, I don't dump 400 hours into a game that I don't have a platinum trophy in. I just don't do that. And like the fact that I don't have the platinum in Destiny, like, yes, it would be really great to have, but it doesn't really bother me that I don't. And like looking at Destiny 2, like, sure, it's a short list, presumably. I mean, I don't know what's going to go into completing some of these, you know, things that are actually on here, because I did see like there's going to be a Crucible thing on there, so I don't know how long that's going to take or anything. But like we know like hitting level 20 probably won't take that long. You'll probably be there by the end of the story. I imagine a couple of those quests on there are tied to the story itself. But like, I don't know, for me overall, like I don't mind, just because I don't want to have to focus on playing a game, focusing like a goal on a trophy. Like if I'm playing Destiny and like I'm chasing like an exotic weapon, like I'm more focused on that than I am trying to get a trophy. And that's Destiny's like, again, the like exception for me with this for some reason, because otherwise like I would be obsessing over the trophies. But no, I mean, I'm totally fine with the shorter list. I mean, if I can knock out the platinum in Destiny 2 sooner, that'd be really cool. I don't feel like the game is in danger of me not playing it more because I've already earned the platinum really early on or anything like that. But even still, like going down the road, we're gonna have DLC and stuff like that, so there's possibly gonna be more stuff coming along the line anyways. But I don't know, I'm not really bothered by it.
Bender, where do you stand on this, buddy?
I don't know. I'm kind of two minds of the thing of it. I feel like they probably could have used some more trophies, but at the same time, I don't know. Like Destiny 1's trophy list was good for the most part, except for Flawless Raider. That's a ridiculous trophy that should have never been on the trophy list, I think, because all the other ones are reasonable to obtain, and I would have had the platinum a long time ago if it wasn't for that trophy. So this is going to be a much easier platinum to get for this game, but I don't know. I feel like they could have gone a little bit more and had some more trophies for other things that you do in the game, because it really feels like it's just you have to do like complete the raid, a Nightfall, and a couple of Crucible things, and like by that time you probably have it. So I don't know. I don't mind having it be an easier platinum, but they could have done some more with it, I think.
The flip side of that too is looking through the list itself. Like some of that stuff is probably going to take you maybe 10 hours or so to do anyways. So I mean, even still at the end of the day, you're still going to be sinking a sizable amount of time into the game and finally get the platinum. So
yeah, I'm kind of like bits and pieces agreeing with all you guys. I agree with Ben. I think this is kind of a half-ass trophy list, but at the same time, like Frankie said, even if I got the platinum early, it's not really going to affect. I'm not gonna be like, well, I'm done with this game, I'm gonna trade it in, I'm all good to go. It's just not gonna happen. But there's just something about. I mean, yes, gold trophies are sweet and silvers are sweet and platinums are obviously awesome, but I always like it when I'm sitting there just running around like 6-7 months after launch, and I'm completing a bunch of stuff, and boom, there's a bronze that shows up. I like those like little trophies that pop up. I mean, like gold and silvers are good, but bronzes are perfect there to kind of scatter out throughout your playthrough and just have a random bronze show up. I mean, you're just going to you'll know when you're coming up to a gold, because the gold is like, hey, beat this mission or beat this quest or beat the raid. You're going to know when the gold's coming. I always like the hidden bronze ones are always the ones I really enjoy, because you never know when they're going to pop up. When you do, you're like, oh crap, that's awesome. There it is. But I just like trophies. I like a lot of trophies because I just like that ding sound. I like getting that trophy, even if I don't know what the hell I'm doing or why I even got it. It's just I prefer longer trophy lists compared to the short gold littered one. But one thing off this trophy list that was pretty interesting is
this is super interesting.
Yeah, this talks about completing the Leviathan Raid. So there we go. We know the raid is the Leviathan Raid. The interesting thing about this, though, is the Leviathan doesn't seem to have anything to do with Gaul, the Cabal, or the Red Legion. In fact, the only mention of Leviathan in Destiny was in the Taken King and reference to the history of the Hive Worm Gods. Now, this is according to Destinypedia. Leviathan was a disciple of the Traveler that was killed and was fed to two of the Worm Gods, forcing the Traveler to flee. Here's like this long description here. The Leviathan was a massive, intelligent creature that resided deep within the ocean of the gas giant Fundament long ago. It was a disciple of the Traveler and aided in the imprisoning of the 5 worm gods within the planet's core. When the Proto-Hive sisters Zero, Sethona, and Arish dove into Fundament's depths in search of a secret that would prevent the Siznigi?
Sigi.
I don't even know I'm just gonna call it
Syzygy, maybe.
Syzygy. That's awesome. An alignment of the gas giant's 52 moons that would create a global tidal wave of catastrophic proportions, the Leviathan met them. Communicating with magnetic fields, it attempted to persuade them to return to the surface and follow the way of the traveler and the light, warning them against the seduction of the deep, but the sisters rejected its pleas because it offered no way to end their species' suffering and avert the syzygy. Later, after the sisters had made their pact with the worms, becoming the hive and ravaging Fundament, the Leviathan tried to escape the planet's surface and take shelter with the Ammonites of Fundament's moons. The Ammonites sent their best forces to protect the Leviathan, whom they revered almost as much as the Traveler, but the hive saw this as an opportunity. In one fell swoop, the hive slew the Leviathan and destroyed the Ammonite civilization, forcing the Traveler to flee for its safety. The Leviathan's corpse was fed to the worm gods Ear and Yule. So,
what?
So we're fighting a giant worm?
well, if we're fighting the Leviathan and he was eaten, did the worm shit him out and like we're just fighting the feces? I don't know.
Well, the interesting thing is that the name of the trophy is in the belly of the beast.
Ooh.
So
are we going inside the worm gods?
Could be.
I didn't even know there was a story. Was this on a Grimoire card? Is this where this came from?
Probably.
Must
Yeah,
have been.
all of this lore and stuff is in these Grimoire cards, and there's some deep stuff like this in there. So there's some crazy stuff in here, but this is a crazy story, and the most interesting part to me is that this doesn't tie into the Cabal in any way.
No.
I thought for sure the raid was going to be with Gaul, but reading about this sounds like Gaul's going to be in the story, and we're going to kind of go through the story and dispense of him. This is going to be something else completely different when the raid comes around. It sounds like the Hive is going to be involved in this once again. So yes. I'm very, very, very curious with this. But yeah, Leviathan sounds awesome.
Yeah, sounds pretty sweet. We'll be curious to see more about. Do you think they'll reveal? There's got to be a trailer coming up with the raid, right? To show it off.
There will be a trailer. I'm curious when they're going to actually release the raid. Obviously, people have to get raid ready to be able to play in the raid. I'm curious if it'll be available like that first weekend or if they might hold it till the next weekend. I don't know when they're actually going to make the raid live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how that all works.
Awesome.
Because when did they do Vault of Glass? Wasn't it like a week or two after release? They released the Vault of Glass.
That was like a month.
Was it a month?
Yeah.
But I mean, we knew about the Vault of Glass before launch, though, didn't we? Didn't they release a trailer to kind of like talk about here's what you can expect in a month or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we knew it was coming for sure.
Yeah, I would love. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like sometime this week we get a Leviathan like teaser trailer. Oh my goodness.
That'd be totally cool. Waiting a month to play the raid, though. Like you're starting all over again. You know, you have to re-equip yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be opposed to that either. I mean, would I like to see it right away? Sure, because I want to jump into it with you guys. But at the same time, like you said, push it out a little bit. Let us explore the European Dead Zone and all these different areas. There's going to be a lot to do there. Maybe this won't be as quick a trek to 20 as we think. Maybe this could take a little bit longer. I mean, that was one thing a lot of people bitched about the first time. I was like, man, I got to level 20 in like 3 days. Not me personally, but people were getting there quick. Maybe they're going to draw it out a little bit more, which I would not be opposed to because they've got so much stuff for you to do in these areas. Why rush the raid? So,
yeah,
just a thought.
Yeah, man. I really want us to be able to hop in there that first weekend and like try to be in there with everybody else, trying to get through the raid and like trying to figure it out. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah. So if they could push it out like a week or two, that'd be great. That would give us some time to kind of get everybody where they need to be because I don't have the days off like you do, so I'm not gonna be able to play as much and get as close to raid ready as you might be able to. So I don't want to have to stay up till like 4 a.m. every night to try and get ready for the raid. Yeah,
my plan is though with my days off is to progress the story with you guys, but like when no one's around, I'm just going to be wandering around trying to find like lost sectors. I'm going to try to find non-story related stuff, not to progress the story. I just want to wander around the world. So I'm going to have, and that's what I'm really most excited about with Destiny 2 is you'll be able to kind of play this single player, have a single player experience, go about and do your own thing, still have plenty to do. And then when you guys come back on during the day or at night, late at night, whatever, I'll be ready to jump into the story with you guys.
I like that too. That it sounds like there's going to be a lot there to do for whatever type of gamer you are, whether you're by yourself or in a group or whatever. Like there's going to be a lot to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, we could go on about Destiny 2 as much as we wanted. Let's move it along. We're going to talk some Gamescom. And Xbox had their big Gamescom press conference, if you want to call it that. Boys, you predicted it correctly. 3 people sitting on a couch. Well done, sir. But the big thing out of this was obviously the Xbox One pre-orders had gone live that day. The Project Scorpio edition was finally unveiled, even though it had been leaked prior to. But this thing sold out quick. The Project Scorpio edition sold out very, very quickly. And in fact, it is the fastest selling Xbox pre-order ever in the history of Xbox. Within just a few days, Microsoft saw record-setting sellout times and are currently sold out in many countries around the world. Now, what they're expecting is the Project Scorpios will be the launch edition, and those are the ones that are all sold out. However, starting in September, you'll be able to order base Xbox One X's, if I'm correct. If I remember this correctly, they'll have pre-orders for non-Project Scorpio editions, be just base model stuff. But those Project Scorpio editions sold out pretty fast. They talked about a lot of stuff at this press conference. They talked about a lot of the games that will be getting enhanced versions of X versions of their games. And based on this list here, it looks like there's quite a few games that are getting this enhancement. I mean, it looks like a total of 72 on their website. That's what it looks like. There's 72, but
yeah, I know they got 72 on there. I think they've mentioned like over 100 or whatever are in production or plan to get the update at some point.
Yeah.
Everything from I'm trying to see. The Surge is on this list. We got Sniper Elite 4 on the list. Just to name a few, Skyrim will be getting another update for the Xbox One X. Rise of the Tomb Raider. Yep, that's a big one. Dead Rising 4, Resident Evil 7, For Honor. Yeah, lots of games are getting, lots of these games are getting X enhancements of some variety. But no, I mean they showed off a lot of great stuff at this press conference. But unfortunately, a lot of the stuff is stuff that we already know about. I mean, we saw Sea of Thieves. They showed off Assassin's Creed Origins, and still, for me, I still think Crackdown 3 would have been a nice launch title to have, just because. And I know there's like people that say, "Oh, well, nobody's buying an Xbox One X for Crackdown 3," and that may be so. But for somebody who is excited about new tech and a first-party title gets the most out of a system, it's simple as that. Looking forward to Motor 7. That game's going to look beautiful. But Crackdown 3 for me was the game that that would have appealed to me more than Forza Motorsport 7. And that's a first-party title, and that game would have really shown off what the X can do. So that's why I was disappointed about that delay, because that's the one first-party game. I know these other games are going to show X enhancements, but it's the first-party stuff that really shows off your system. It's simple as that. And because that game's not there, that's why I am disappointed about it. No, I'm not buying an Xbox One solely for that, but that was the biggest purchase for me to go along with the Xbox One X with my pre-order, but that's obviously not there. But
that's probably actually when I'm going to pull the trigger on it. Like, I didn't jump to pre-order one. It's the same with like when the PlayStation Pro is announced. Like, I don't really feel like it's something that I need. But come tax time, when I have money laying around that I don't need for anything at that moment in time, hopefully, that's when I'll probably be inclined to pick one up. I think Crackdown 3 will be out around then anyways, so I'm fine waiting to pick one up. I just have no burning desire to buy one.
Hey, when you hit one of these moments when you have money laying around that you don't need, you give me a call. All right? We'll talk about these moments.
It's a one time a year thing. Get the income tax return. I'm like, all right, cool. I got all these games pre-ordered and paid off.
Buy a system.
Be responsible. Buy video games.
I don't care if it happens once a decade. You give me a call.
They also talked about a couple of ways you can transfer your data to the Xbox One X. Looks like there's 3 different ways to do it. You can do the settings backup. Your existing Xbox One settings, presumably including the new modular home menu, can be copied to an external storage device and reapplied to the X. In regards to early 4K updates, patches for 4K game enhancements are likely to be weighty. You'll be able to download these early on your existing Xbox, then copy them to your external storage device or transfer them over a home network when your X arrives. Lastly, game and app transfer. Once you receive your X, all games and apps from your original console can be transferred over your home network, which should be faster than re-downloading them or copying via storage or external storage. So there's multiple ways you can transfer your data over. What is over a home network? Is that basically just Wi-Fi?
Is that wireless? Yeah, I was gonna say, is that wireless?
I think that's like Wi-Fi, because I think I had to do that when I tried transferring stuff from my PC to my Mac. I had to use something like with the Mac is like, you have to set up this network and then it transfers through your Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just plug my external hard drive into the X and be fine?
That's what it says here.
I think you can. Yeah, I think you just plug it in and it works.
You mean the stuff with all your games that are already on it?
Yeah, like I don't have anything on my internal hard drive on my Xbox. It's on the external, so.
Oh yeah, it says your existing Xbox One settings, data, and apps can be copied to an external storage device and reapplied to an X. So I think you're in good order there.
Good,
should be safe.
Yeah, I thought I remembered them mentioning that at the conference there that you could just plug your hard drive in and be ready to go.
Mm-hmm. We also got a new Shadow of War bundle, which arrives on October 10th. You can pick up an Xbox One S and get Shadow of War. I don't know. Are they going to sell any of these things?
Nope. That's like the first big game that got announced with X support.
And they're doing a bundle with the S.
Here's an S bundle.
Less than a month before launch.
Good luck with that.
I don't know about that one.
I don't know. I mean, Shadow of War looks awesome, but apparently everyone hates that game because it has microtransactions. So,
right, yeah, because that affects everybody. Your single player experience, man.
It must.
I love gamers.
The vocal minority once again.
Also coming out of Gamescom, a big announcement, which again left many people wondering, what does it mean? Microsoft has announced they've expanded their partnership with PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. This is a statement per Microsoft. Back in June at E3, we announced that PUBG will be launching exclusively on Xbox One and Xbox Game Preview Program in late 2017. Ever since then, we've come to realize that we have shared vision for the direction of the game with the Xbox team. This led to our decision to extend our partnership with Microsoft, and I'm happy to announce it now includes Microsoft as the publisher for our PUBG on Xbox One. By partnering with Microsoft, our team believes that we'll be able to accelerate console development while maintaining quality across all platforms, as well as giving up access to vast sales, marketing, and publishing resources that will help us reach new fans to welcome to the PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds universe. We are very excited to continue and further strengthen our partnership with Microsoft and are super excited to meet the Xbox community. We will be launching exclusively on Xbox One and the Xbox Game Preview Program later this year, and we can't wait to see all the Xbox fans on the battlefield. Now, this sounds very, very similar to what we heard from Rise of the Tomb Raider when that was announced to being published by Microsoft as well. They said, we're publishing this game, we're helping them make the game, it's coming to Xbox One, and that's it. It's exclusive to Xbox One. Same here now. Now we have this same wording. Is this just while it's in preview? Is this a timed thing? And we can't seem to get a direct answer from anybody. Everyone's just kind of dancing around, which leads me to believe that this is just going to be, which I still think is a fine get. I think this game's going to do very well. I don't know if it's going to move consoles. Like I said, I've played it. I think it's a cool concept. It's in rough shape. It's not the best game in terms of its optimization, but it's still obviously in early access. But for people who love multiplayer games, they're gonna love it. For people that love single player games, they're gonna hate it. So I mean, it's not. I don't think this thing's going to sell a lot of consoles. There's a lot of hype behind it right now, obviously. But I'll be really curious to see if a multiplayer only game like this really takes off. But hey, look, Rainbow Six Siege is a multiplayer only game. That thing's been on the MPDs for a long time now. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. Frankie, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think this is, man? Is this Microsoft? Is this a big get? Is this an exclusive going forward, or is this a Rise of the Tomb Raider situation?
This is a Rise of the Tomb Raider situation. There's no doubt about it. My biggest thing with it, and the thing I wish people would understand, is Microsoft is not there to promote games on other platforms. They're going to say, we're launching this on our system this fall. That's what they're going to say. They're not there to be like, and then, yeah, sure, it can come to PlayStation later. Like, you ask them about other consoles, like, no, ask them. Like, this is what we're doing with them. This is our deal with them. You're interviewing them about this, not interviewing Sony, like, hey, what are you guys doing with PUBG? So it drives me crazy when like these different sites keep like asking these guys the same damn question. Like, they want to talk about PUBG on Xbox. They're publishing it, bringing it to Xbox. That's what they want to talk about. So it's the same thing. Like the same thing happened with Tomb Raider. People are asking Square. Square was kind of dancing around it. And, obviously it went on to come out on, PlayStation, PC later on. PUBG is going to be the same thing. It's going to be launching on Xbox because they have the game preview thing. PlayStation doesn't do that. So I have no doubt that when this game is getting ready to come to like, version 1.0 or whatever, it'll release on other platforms. And they're an independent developer. They're not going to want to pass up on all the money that their game's going to bring in, especially with how popular it is.
Right. Ben, what's your take, buddy?
Yeah, this is absolutely coming to PS4. In fact, the PlayerUnknown team has all but said it's coming to PS4. Like, if you go back and read some of their past statements over the weeks and months, so it's. I think this is definitely. I think we're in a We Happy Few situation here. This is a game that's exclusive to the game preview program while it's in that format. And when the game hits the 1.0 format, like Frankie mentioned, then it's going to be out on the PS4 as well. So I thought it was a very interesting wrinkle that Microsoft has stepped in to publish the game, on the Xbox One. So I wondered if that might throw a kink into it. But I've got a quote here from Mike Ibarra. He basically says, right? He says, "We're publishing it on Xbox, and it's a console launch exclusive. For anything else, we don't like to answer on behalf of developers, so you'd have to ask Bluehole. I've got a large portion of my team working with them to optimize it, and their focus is entirely on the PC and Xbox period to get that done. So when they use the term console launch exclusive, that means it's going to be somewhere else eventually. That's just flat out what that phrase means. So this will be on PS4 eventually, and I'd be very shocked if when this comes out of early access or out of game preview that this is not on the PS4 as well. And I also think you're onto something with this. I'm curious with how this game is going to perform on the Xbox One, because I don't know if console gamers care about early access stuff. Like I don't know if that's a concept that they've been able to wrap their heads around yet. I don't. As a console gamer, I don't give a shit about early access. In fact, early access gets on my nerves. So I don't know if this is going to be something that catches on. Like, early access to me is just such a PC thing. It's like such a PC concept that I don't know if that's going to translate over. But I don't know. Maybe Microsoft is seeing different numbers from their early access program. Remains to be seen. But yeah, absolutely, this game will be on PS4 at some point.
I would not be at all surprised if this thing does extremely well, just because unlike a lot of the other early access games, there is a ton of buzz around this. It's extremely popular with streamers, so people watching those streams are going to be excited to get their hands on it on consoles. So if the second they can hop into it on Xbox, I don't doubt that this game is going to do very well.
Yeah, I can see it taking off because obviously, Forza Motorsport is the only big Xbox One exclusive this fall. I mean, with the exception of Cuphead and Super Lucky Tales. This is a shooter. Okay, it's a first-person shooter. It's going to sell. It's going to do very, very well.
Wait, is it first person?
It can be, yes.
Is it like Battlefront where you can rotate views?
I think, from what I played on PC, you're in third person, but I think when you aim, it can zoom down the sights. You can go back and forth between it. But
I thought they released one of their patches recently. Let you play in first person.
You can. Yeah, you're right. Yep, there is an update that came to it. So I mean, this will be a first person shooter. It's gonna sell. I mean, Xbox community is gonna get behind this game. It's gonna be something cool. It's gonna be the big new thing on their system. So I actually do expect this to do pretty well. But I just don't know if it'll be huge because there's still a lot of Xbox players that like single player stuff. Not everybody likes multiplayer, but it's a cool concept. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the concept for this game is great. I just hope that the Xbox One version, when it comes over, is in much better shape than what the PC version is. I'm not saying the PC version's a train wreck, but I've had multiple games where I'll drop in there and I can't enter any of the buildings because they haven't fully rendered. It's cause that's where all the gear is. That's everything that you need. So there's been issues with the PC version, but they're smoothing it out. But this should do pretty well on Xbox One this fall.
I got a question, and I don't know if you're privy to this information, but like when they do a game preview game, you look at how the game progresses on PC. Like, does the Xbox get updates for these games at the same clip that the PC gets, or are Xbox ones like, do they have to just do like big updates and pack a lot into them?
I think the submission process is different for consoles. I think if I remember correctly, I heard the Xbox One and PS4 submissions are much more demanding in terms of quality compared to PC. I think they pump out. I mean, every day I turn on my Steam, there's an update for Battleground Unknowns or Counter-Strike. I mean, they're just constantly pushing out updates every day, and I don't think it works like that on consoles. I think it takes a while, like you said, to kind of form a big update to get stuff out.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the certification process is a few weeks on consoles. So anytime that somebody wants to patch a game, it has to go through certification first. I don't know that they have that in any form on PC. I feel like they just push those out because I don't know if they have to certify it through Valve or whatever when they do that on Steam.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if like the rules are different because it's in game preview, so obviously it's going to see updates probably more frequently than like a regular game, but not.
That's a good point too. I'm not sure if the early access or the game preview kind of changes the stipulations, but I still got to believe they won't just let people push out stuff.
How often has We Happy Few been updating for you guys?
I actually don't even check to see when stuff updates.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. I've had that game deleted forever, so I don't see updates. But I think it only got 5 or 6 updates over the year.
Maybe.
I mean, it might be a lot, but I don't know like how frequent they like came out on PC or anything.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how quick those came out. But a couple more Xbox One things. Halo Wars 2: Awakening Nightmares arrives on September 26th, Franklin.
Yes.
So you'll get another expansion coming to Halo Wars 2, September 26th.
No, this is the one where you get to play as the Flood, I think. So dude, this just looks freaking insane. I cannot wait to play this one.
September 26th, man. Not too long from now, less than a month. Microsoft also announced Sea of Thieves will support cross-platform play from Windows 10 and Xbox One. All right, Mr. Boyce, we're going to turn it over to you. What's going on in the world of PlayStation, buddy?
Big story came out the other day. I think it was yesterday. So a leaked listing for Yakuza Kiwami 2 via was it the Hong Kong PlayStation Store or the Taiwanese PlayStation Store?
Yeah, Taiwan.
Yeah, one of those. One of those leaked the listing for Yakuza Kiwami 2, and then it was officially unveiled. Yesterday or today? These days are all running together
this
for
morning.
me. So this morning, Yakuza Kiwami 2 was officially unveiled by Sega. So and this is big news because Yakuza 2 was the last game in the Yakuza saga that was not available on high definition displays or in a high definition format. So the only way to play Yakuza 2 is to go back and track it down on the PlayStation 2. So now with Kiwami coming out to Tuesday, and with Kiwami 2 now in the pipeline for late this year in Japan. Don't know when it's going to make it west. Yeah. But now the entire Yakuza saga will be available for in a high definition format via the PS3 or the PS4. So Frankie, how excited are you to hear about this, man?
Dude, I'm jazzed, man. Watched that trailer this morning, didn't understand a damn word of it. Saw that it's coming out on December 7th over in Japan. Seems like a great time because that's when the PlayStation Experience is happening is that week. So that's a really great announcement.
That's a Geo announcement.
Yeah,
definitely.
Which I know you're obviously listening to our show, so I look forward to that announcement. But yeah, I'm excited because I wasn't sure this was going to happen. Yakuza 2, like you said, is kind of the game that I'm looking at. Like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to track one of these down to play. It's a very expensive game if you can find a copy. The only other option, of course, would be to do a PS2 and PS4 version, but I didn't see that happening either, unfortunately. So, yeah, dude, I'm really excited. So I'm sad because I'm still gonna play them out of order because I still want to tackle Yakuza 6 in March. So I have my plans in place to play through 3 through 5 in January, February. So It's nice though knowing that at some point I will have Yakuza 2 available to me to go back to fill in, what I've missed. So I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, very very cool announcement. Now the entire saga will be available across the PS3 and PS4. Do you think they go back and bring the other Yakuza games over to the PS4 at some point? Maybe in some type of I don't know, type of a collection, Yakuza 3 through 5 or something like that.
I think it would be great. I don't see it happening, but that would
Mhm.
be really great if they did.
Yeah. So keep our eye on that. Now, it wasn't enough that they gave us Yakuza Kiwami too. Now they went in and they're like, the Yakuza team is also making a Fist of the North Star game. So this is a huge anime, long running anime or old anime. I don't know if they make anything with this anymore, but I remember watching Fist of the North Star back in the day. It's very very violent anime, and they look to be bringing that violence over to this game. So it looks like just over the top action game. Seems like something the Yakuza team would do very well. Franklin, did you see the Fist of the North Star trailer as well?
I did. That's another one. I was laughing because I saw a tweet earlier that someone was talking about like, wow, Fist of the North Star by the Yakuza team. I didn't know I needed this.
Yeah.
But I felt the same way after I saw the trailer. I was like, this looks awesome. I never played. I know there are 2 of those games that came out last gen. Never mess with them. I'm not really
Yeah.
familiar with the series at all, but man, this looks awesome.
Yeah, looks intense. Like I said, it's a violent series, and they look to be bringing that violence over tenfold with this game. Yeah, we saw some huge battles, and it looks like a very very over the top game. Looks like something I would definitely play as well. So I've got my eye on that as well. But some very cool announcements from the Yakuza team coming early this morning today. Also on this Sega train, how about Shenmue 3 getting its first teaser trailer? So some people made a big deal about some of the character models in here, but this is obviously not the finished version of the game, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But what we see in this trailer, we see the main character, what's his name, Ryo. So we see him in there with man, I can't remember the girl's name either, so I'm drawing a blank on that. But the guy and the girl, they're in the trailer. We see some combat. We see some honestly some very beautiful environments. So forgot if this was Shanghai or where it was taking place, but it's in a city in China. The music is excellent in this trailer. So that's always been a hallmark of the Shenmue series. It's just good to see some form of something tangible for this game now. Like, this is a real game that's being made, and I'm still not convinced they're gonna hit their 2018 date. We'll see when all that's said and done. But I don't know, Frankie, what do you think about this, man? As a longtime Sega fan.
I'm looking forward to it. I never played through the Shenmue games. I know I've dabbled with them, but I've never sat down and like actually played them because when I did try them out, like it wasn't a game I was interested in at that time.
Yeah, me too.
I could be mistaken, but I think I saw Deep Silver is actually going to be publishing.
Yes, Deep Silver is the publisher now,
which is interesting. But
yeah. It's another weird wrinkle in this saga. It's like, once again, we have a game that's been kickstarted with millions of dollars, and we know that the millions of dollars is not enough to make a production of this level. Like, there's a lot more millions of dollars that need to go into this. So then you have a publisher getting involved. Sony's involved in some kind of form. So the dynamics are very weird in how all of this works. But yeah, Deep Silver is involved now with publishing the game, and I imagine they're gonna handle all the retail box copies, all that kind of stuff. So good to see some tangible evidence of Shenmue making its appearance here, though. Do you think they're gonna hit 2018? I just feel like,
hell no.
I just feel like this is a huge game, takes a long time to make. I just don't see it.
Yeah, there's no way.
We'll see. They actually reiterated it with this trailer. They're like, yeah, here's our trailer. We're looking forward to getting this to you in 2018. We'll see you. All right, now another very cool announcement from this week. Announcement that I was excited for. Secret of Mana getting a 3D remake on February 15th on the PS4 and the mother Vita.
He is that excited.
Yeah. So Secret of Mana coming to the PS4 and the Vita. That's exciting. February 15th, 2018. I've told you guys before, I love Secret of Mana. I think it's an awesome role-playing game. Don't don't know yet about how this remake is going to look in terms of this 3D look. I love the original 16-bit look of the game. It's just a fantastic game, but just excited that this game's coming back in any way, shape, or form. Is Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo Classic as well? I believe it's on there. So,
Yep.
yeah, so we're getting Secret of Mana on there. We're getting Secret of Mana next year on the PS4 and Vita with trophies and being able to take it with us on the go and that kind of stuff. So that's awesome. Has anybody else ever played Secret of Mana? No.
Nope.
So they're bringing the cooperative aspect of the game over as well. That was one of the unique things that this game did. But on the Super Nintendo, you could play 3 players in this game. It was a 3-player game. You had to hook up the multi-tap or whatever they called it at the time to the Super Nintendo, and you could play multiple characters up to, I think it was up to 3 at that time. So I'm excited about Secret of Mana. Like I said, I absolutely love that game. It's a ton of fun. So excited that it's being making a reappearance here. Another game that I'm excited about is Ruiner, a game I've been following for a while now. It's coming out September 26th. Just this dark action cyberpunk game from just Devolver Digital. From this.
Sure is.
Yeah. So really like the way this game looks. Looks like it's gonna have some intense action, maybe some twin stick mechanics. Don't know exactly how it's gonna play out, but Brent, this looks like something you get into as well, man. Have you been following Ruiner at all?
I have not.
Yeah. So watch the trailer for this. Check out some of the coverage that's happened recently, but this game looks awesome. September 26th on the PS4 and the Xbox One. Another game that I think sounds really rad is Immortal Unchained.
Mhm.
So, I was thinking about this, maybe I'm just ignorant of this, but I don't think that there's been like a Souls-inspired shooter before, and it just seems like such an obvious idea that somebody would have done this already with
Right.
with how popular this subgenre has become. Yeah, Immortal Unchained takes the Dark Souls formula in that type of game, and it transports it into a third-person shooter. So I think that's a really interesting idea. This game, we don't know much about it right now, but I love this concept. Franklin, what do you think, man? You on board for a Souls-inspired shooter?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
saw,
like you said, I'm surprised it took them this long to
Mhm.
pursue this.
Yeah.
So this will be interesting though. I'm looking forward to it.
Brent, we saw a brief snippet of gameplay in this
Mhm.
trailer. Like at the end there, we saw like a big dude coming at this guy, him kind of shooting and dodging. Like that to me, that just seems like that's going to be a very, very cool mechanic if it all feels right. Like dodging, that's just kind of a natural combat role. Like that's kind of something you naturally do in these third-person shooters. So to be able to do that in this kind of game, really, really curious to see how that turns out, man.
Yeah, that trailer was like Frankie said. I was kind of like, yeah, that's really strange. We haven't done this yet. Why isn't this
Yeah.
a thing? So the fact that they're exploring this and going to give it a try, I think that sounds actually really, really cool. This trailer was, there wasn't a whole lot to the trailer, but it makes you think, and I'm definitely curious to see how a shooter would work in a Souls like formula.
Definitely. So gonna keep our eyes on Immortal Unchained. A lot of potential with that one. A couple last nuggets here. .hack GU Last Recode arrives in November on the PS4, on November 3rd to be exact. And GT Sport getting a bundle in Europe for now. But man, that's a sexy looking bundle. That
Mhm.
system and that controller, that thing looks damn good. So hopefully they bring that over to the States. But yeah, if you're in Europe, be on the lookout for that GT Sport bundle. That is a good looking piece of tech right there.
Very, very sexy.
That does it for the PlayStation stuff, Brent.
Awesome, Mr. Boyce. Well, that's going to do it for this week's show. There's a lot going on this week. There was a lot to talk about. A lot of great games coming out this week. Boys, so we're not quite sure what we're going to do for the Tuesday Night Indie Spotlight yet?
Not sure yet because a lot of the games this week are coming out on Thursday. So it's kind of a weird week in terms of releases. So there's not a lot of things actually releasing on Tuesday. But but we'll find something and fire it up. Most likely it'll end up being one of these smaller games like Still Time or the Metronomicon.
Okay. Well, stay tuned to the Short Pause Twitter handle. We'll make sure we tweet out the date and time and what game we'll be playing for the Tuesday Night Indie Spotlight, or maybe a Thursday night special Indie Spotlight. Who knows? So make sure you follow us on Twitter. But gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's show. There will not be a podcast next week, not this type of podcast, but we will have a stream next weekend. We'll figure out the time and the day, and we'll get that out on Twitter. But we are going to talk some Destiny 2 prior to its launch. But gentlemen, where can we find you gaming and tweeting, Mr. Boyce?
As always, Brent, I will be not tweeting at Piccolo930. It's my PSN handle as well. Find me on the Switch on there. If you can find my friend code. And then we'll be doing the Tuesday night indie spotlight 10 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel, Short Pause Gaming on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff.
Franklin.
You can find me on Twitter, Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, Nintendo Switch at Viper Strike. And tune in Monday night, probably 12:15 in the morning, Monday night, Tuesday morning, whatever you want to consider that. But we will be firing up Yakuza Kiwami. And our good friend JD from the Play and Listen Gaming Podcast is going to join me in party chat just to talk about Yakuza. He's a fellow fan. I know he's played through 4. He just finished 0. So we are probably going to spoil some of the stuff that happens in 0. Obviously, it is a prequel to Kiwami. So kind of be wary of that stuff if you're interested in the story. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, some of the stuff that happens in Kiwami we're going to touch on because it's fresh in our mind. So
Right.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. I'm just excited to play Yakuza, man.
Oh yeah, buddy. Bender.
You can find me on Twitter at Bender_guitar and on PlayStation Network and Nintendo Network at me_Bender and Xbox Live at meBender82.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. You can find me on the PlayStation Network, The Dude 79, Xbox Live, The Real Dude 79, Nintendo Switch, The Dude 79, and on Twitter at The Dude 1979. Make sure you visit the website, www.shortpause.com. Follow us on Twitter at The Short Pause. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Short Pause Gaming, our Twitch channel, Short Pause Gaming, Mixer, Short Pause Gaming, and Facebook, Short Pause Gaming. Those are all the channels that we tend to stream to. And then you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, TuneIn, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and you can also watch it right here on YouTube and on Twitch. Now, if you like this podcast, if you really, really like it, go over to iTunes, give us a sexy 5-star rating, write out our nice reviews, tell us why you like the show. If you're not ready to give us a 5-star rating, that's cool. We don't want any fake 5 stars. If you're not ready to give us 5 stars, send us an email, podcast@shortpause.com, and tell us why you're not ready to give us 5 stars. We want all your criticisms. We want all your feedback. It's the only way this show gets better. We do this show for you. So if you don't like something about the show, email us. We'll do whatever we can to make it as enjoyable as possible so you never want to miss it every single week. If you don't want to write an email, that's fine. Go over to the website, look for the podcast post, go right into the comments, sound off there. So, for Mr. Boyce, Mr. Ayler, and Mr. Holt, I'm Brent Felsing. Thanks again for watching and listening to the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye, guys.